Inside the Birds is back. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Inside the Birds pregame live, presented by DraftKings. We're here at Goose Island Brewhouse in Fishtown. Hope everybody had a wonderful Halloween. It is time to talk some Eagles football. I'm Jeff Mosher from Inside the Birds. Of course, you know Adam Kaplan, my co-host from Inside the Birds. To the left, all eyes on former Eagles Pro Bowl left tackle Trey Thomas. And back from his one-game suspension for wearing a blue checkered blazer that he decided to wear again is our friend Greg Cosell. Welcome back, Greg Cosell.
Thank you, Jeff. Good to be here.
The seat's hot for you. Jamal Jackson was in your spot last game and last show.
I saw the jacket. Well, I don't have one like that.
No.
A smoking jacket? Yeah.
So you're back on the hot seat. I think you can handle it, though. I trust you'll be all right. It's Dallas week here in Philadelphia, and we're going to get into that a little bit, but it doesn't really feel like Dallas week, and that's maybe because the Cowboys are a dumpster fire, or maybe because the Eagles have so many injuries themselves, or perhaps because tonight both teams will meet each other with just 2 wins. It's not really what we thought maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago when this game was on the schedule. Trey, Dallas week to you. You're the one on the cast that actually played football and for the Eagles, so give us what Dallas week means to you as a player.
As a player, I really didn't care. I mean, when I first started my rookie year, I knew fans, they kind of came up to me and was like, listen, man, I don't care what your record is. You just make sure you whoop Dallas. But when it came down to game time, as I continued to just move throughout the season, and I really did, because I was going to treat every game the same, regardless. I wasn't going to change what I was going to do or whatever. I still had to go out there and do my job. But I did always enjoy going to Dallas. And when we would break down on the 50-yard line. See, we would always take the 50-yard line. Even after the team started getting threatened with being fined, we would still take the 50-yard line. And it was always fun to go to Dallas and break down on their star.
Everybody loves the star. I mean, everybody just loves to go to the star. Why? It's just every field has that midfield
because
logo.
It's the star. I mean, you take the star.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's like if we were in college, it would be like, at Florida State we had turf games. So
right.
You would have certain games, you get a big win in certain stadiums, you would take a piece of their turf. Like I would love to cut out a piece of the star just to take that with us, if we get the
Hey, Jeff, I grew up here. I hated the star and everything it symbolized. I couldn't stand it. I mean, I go back to Hollywood Henderson and all his yapping, and Drew Pearson and Staubach and Danny White and Tom Landry. Yeah, they were great, but I hated the star. If you grew up in Philly, unless there's something wrong with you, you hated that star.
Yeah, well, I mean, you listen to sports talk sometime and you think, well, maybe there is something wrong with a segment of the people
some Cowboy fans
who live
here.
in
What is
this
going on with
area.
that?
We'll get into that as we go on. If you're watching at home, I assume you are, please give us a retweet, a share, whether you're using Facebook, Twitter, MySpace. What does Bill Belichick always call it? Instaface?
Yeah, Instaface.
Snapchat, whatever you're watching us on, just give us a nice little share and spread the word. I love when Belichick says that. That's the only thing he says that's actually pretty funny.
He probably doesn't spend a lot of time on social media.
You don't think so?
No.
I don't think it's so sweet.
No, he also says he doesn't dabble in analytics, and we know Ernie Adams and him do plenty of analytics. So you don't think he has a little burner account that he's no?
He's no Coangelo.
I don't think so.
Maybe not enough time. All right, look, we're going to start this show as we usually do. We've got a lot of breaking news to get through, and obviously the offensive line has always been a big topic of conversation with the Eagles. It's going to be again tonight. So Lane Johnson, Fox was the first to have the news, apparently had a swelling in his knee and told the team he is out for the game. Look, we can talk about the treatment and how this has gone for the last 3 weeks with Lane. We'll get into that, but just right now, as we sit here and talk about this game, it appears that Jordan Mailata will play right tackle. So everybody who was upset that Jordan wasn't going to play because Jason Peters is back now can rest easy, or can they, Adam? He's at right tackle now.
He is. Now, I'm told he did get a decent amount of reps on Thursday, but because Lane thought he was ready, he took all the reps on Friday. That's Lane Johnson at right tackle. Mm-hmm. Now he's not playing, so Mailata will play right tackle. Jason Peters is back at left. And the question now is, when you have all this game day shuffling, can you get it right? Because Mailata's really been training at left tackle this season. So that's a little bit, Trey, that's a little bit on game day. Like from a mental standpoint, when you're told 4 to 5 hours before the game, okay, you're switching sides, what's that like?
Yeah, that's got to be tough. I mean, I've never had to worry about switching sides.
You were just a left.
I was always going to be left tackle, and then after playing left tackle for so long, there was no way I was going back over on the right side. I mean, I was one time when I was in Jacksonville, we did an unbalanced situation, and I went over on the right side, and I got put on my ass real quick, just because the balance and the muscle memory and all of that, you know. So I was like, hey, let's not ever run that play ever again. Make sure I stay on the left. But to have that information given to you that quick, you know, when you haven't taken many reps during the week, you know, that's I don't understand why you would make that switch when you have Matt Pryor there. You can just keep Matt Pryor at right tackle, and then whatever you need to do as far as your guard situation, do that. But to me, I don't know why you would make a switch like that late in the week. That's like Andre. That's bringing Dillard's situation again. You know
Right.
that I know that Jordan played some right tackle during training camp and all that. He's had some experience over there, but he's been on the left side for 4 or 5 weeks now. Now you're going to say, all right, hey, we'll switch. We need you to make a switch, and you find out what the day of the game.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Exactly.
So he'll probably face a lot. He'll see a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
Who hasn't been the DeMarcus Lawrence that we've seen over the past few years. But Greg, I know, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but just your overview on that kind of matchup right now.
Well, I can only speak to DeMarcus Lawrence at his best, because ideally that's what you hope you see if you're a Cowboy fan anyway. DeMarcus Lawrence is a tough assignment. And, you know, Trey and I were actually talking before we started that one of the things we did see with Jordan Mailata when he was on the left side was in pass protection anyway, a tendency to rise up at times. He's a big man, you know, and I'm sure, Trey, you had to work on that being a taller tackle to make sure you stayed low.
Yeah.
It's just natural to stand up, and when you do that, you lose leverage. And DeMarcus Lawrence at his best is a very, very good pass rusher.
You know, this is unfortunate just because it felt like with the Eagles that everything was starting to come together at the right time, as we'll get into, you know.
Well, we don't know if it's going to fall apart.
No, I totally agree. I'm just talking about the idea of you're finally having
a lot
that
of positivity,
continuity.
right,
Yeah,
right.
You're getting Jalen
Right,
Reagor
right,
back. You're
right.
going to get Dallas Goedert back. We'll
Right.
get into it. And then this kind of, it becomes the 7th different offensive line in 8 games. I know they're used to it,
Yeah.
Trey,
Right.
but this is not what they want to be used to.
But they shouldn't have started Lane last week anyway, though. I
agree
mean, you
with you.
should have let Lane rest. But then, because he's out there hobbling, you got Opeta out there. Opeta took him out
Right.
because Opeta was blocking the defensive end that ran him into Lane's knee. And I mean, Lane, you know what? And this is something that I've had an issue with them before. Put on some damn knee braces, and you don't have this problem.
I feel like you say this once a show.
I know you do.
They're
Yeah.
not listening.
You know.
Tweet it.
We got to get you. We got to get you a coaching job so that people get fined if they don't wear knee braces in Trey Thomas's court. We'll get into the offensive line. We're going to talk about a lot when we get into our trench talk segment. Let's also talk about some players who are coming back tonight. One of my favorite terms for our Inside the Birds listeners is net positive, net neutral, net negative. Finally, for the Eagles, it feels like they're a little bit net positive on the injury front. Adam, Jalen Reagor's going to play. We reported that earlier in the week. I've been told that he is not on a play count, no restrictions, so we'll see how his conditioning is.
Good.
What do we know about Goedert, Dallas Goedert?
Well, one thing to add with Reagor, I'm told he actually returned punts in practice, so that goes to your point.
Yeah.
They probably will not limit him. Goddard's interesting because I'd heard a couple weeks ago he was targeting week 8 to get on the field. Well, I never thought that's going to happen. He had a tibia fracture, but he revealed this week also on the same leg he had a high ankle sprain. So you and I got word, I'm going to say somewhere around Friday, that he's probably going to play, and I'm like, how's this happening? Well, then I got a little clue that he looked fantastic in practice this week. He didn't look like he was being limited. He ran really well, and the biggest issue here is he checked out medically. His injuries, believe it or not, have healed. So, hey, listen, if you get cleared medically with a bye next week, you clearly are good to go. I'm going to be interested to see that tonight, Greg, because you know as well as I do, Goedert is a really good blocker in addition to being a pass catcher. How much, guys, does Goedert help them tonight?
Well,
Greg?
I think he could help a lot. You know, what they've morphed into, and it'll be interesting to see what they do tonight, because of Ertz and Goedert being out, they have clearly evolved the last couple of weeks into an 11 personnel offense. Last week, 75 were out of 11 personnel. So the question now begs, with Goedert in and Reagor back, do they stay 11 personnel? I would say yes, but I think Goedert helps a lot because he's athletic and he can stretch the seams. I mean, this is a pass offense that needs to be able to stretch the seams somewhere along the line. I mean, we saw, you know, when they were down 21-10 to the Giants with 6 minutes to go, the play that really allowed them to get back in the game was the 59-yarder to Hightower. You've got to be able to throw the ball down the field.
Yeah. Before you make your point, I was going to that. I'd say I think for the first time this year, I feel like the Eagles can be more situational in their coaching. They can be 12 if they want to be 12.
Correct.
Richard Rodgers has played well.
Yeah.
They can be 11 if they want to be 11. They can also, for the first time this year, with their depth now at wide receiver, show you some 10.
If
So
they
you can
want
play
to,
all
you're
three.
right.
You can play all three formations. But do you believe, Trey, that Dallas can be ready to take on a workload with the injuries that Adam just said he's coming back from?
Yeah, I don't know, man. You know, to me it seems a little rushed. You know, and I know as a player you sit out there and you see other guys at your position doing well. You see Rodgers out there making some plays, and you feel like, all right, you know what, I need to get back for the team. And here you are coming back from a fractured ankle and a high ankle sprain. I think it's a little soon. You know, especially when you have the bye week next week.
I know. I hear you.
You know, so.
Do you feel that way about Rager as well, since you have the
Yes,
bye week?
I think so as well. I mean, you have the
fair.
bye week. You know, because what if? And it's always, you can always put a what if on something, but to me it just always feels. To me right now it just feels like it's a little rush, and I know everybody like, woo, we got all our guys back, but man, you mess around and you're running the risk now of, you know, you might lose them for the season if something happens back.
If you, as a player, if you're coming back from an injury and you say, guys, it checks out medically, I feel good, I want to play, do you feel like you should be held out?
I don't know. Well, yeah, of course you feel good. You haven't done anything for 3 or 4 weeks.
But you've been if you've been practicing hard, I know it's not game speed, I get that.
Yeah.
But if you've been practicing, you feel right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you feel good. You feel like, all right, yeah, let's go. And that's the same thing. Okay, Lane came out. He said, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'll gut it out. You saw him hobbling all throughout that game.
Fair point. Yeah.
You know, so, and they still even called a screen play where he led the charge, and you saw him hobbling out to go try to get his man. And I'm like, man, what are we doing? Are you running the risk to really risk these guys for the rest of the season where you could possibly get them for just take the next week? I don't know. You know, if they're healthy, good. I hope they get through this game and we don't have any setbacks. But you run a chance of having a major setback when you could have just waited another week.
And surely, Deshaun Jackson came back, and obviously he got hurt in his first. Now, could it be coincidental, maybe? But the point, to your point, Lane and Deshaun have both tried to come back and gotten hurt. So we'll see what happens with them. Adam, one guy we got to talk about who was back last week but only played a little bit was Avante Maddox.
Yeah.
What do you expect from him today?
I expect him to start on the outside. He only played 4 snaps on defense, but told he had a really good week of practice. He took the work with the ones, so he should be out on the outside. Remember, LeBlanc is not available due to injury, so Roby Coleman should be their nickel today.
Yeah.
They're down a couple corners because Craig James also is out with an injury, so they're down a little bit in depth on the outside. And I'll be interested to see if they could actually protect Ben DiNucci, because Dallas has offensive line issues. Yes.
Who?
It's our first mention of Ben, not Dominic DiNucci tonight. Also from Pittsburgh.
It'll be interesting, too, and we will get into this,
Yeah.
of course, obviously about DiNucci, but Dallas plays more 11 personnel than any
you go.
team in the NFL. Almost 80% of their snaps up to this point in the season have been in 11 personnel.
That's the thing. You spread the Eagles out because they're not deep at outside corner.
Right, and obviously, I would say they've gotten away the last 2 weeks with being able to play Nikhil Roby-Coleman on the outside when he's not really an outside corner. Now Avante comes back. You got some good Dallas weapons. You put NRC back in the slot, and also you don't have to rely so much on Craig James, who struggled a little bit last week.
Yeah, because Maddox only played the final 4 snaps of the game last week. Otherwise, he did not
All
play.
in specials, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
The rest was in specials.
Right. All right, let's also talk about some players who will not be on the field tonight. We got to go through some of the injuries. Miles Sanders, he will miss his 2nd straight game. He's got a knee thing. Adam, do we know if he'll be back after the bye?
The expectation is he will be back after the bye. It was a up to 2 week injury. They've got the bye. He should be back after the bye. And if they could just keep the guys who are on the field tonight healthy, they're really almost fully loaded on offense.
And now what about Alshon Jeffrey?
Oh yeah, I'm told. Okay,
This is another weekly thing.
I couldn't wait to ask him this.
that is actually what I'm getting at. Now, barring a setback, and we've seen many here.
You say that every.
Hey, I have to set it up like that, Cosell.
Can you
now
not
steal my thunder?
Can you just say, barring life, or barring the way things go with the
The Eagles are expecting him to play in Week 10 on the road at the Giants. That's where that is.
Sure they are.
That's what I'm told. So we'll see.
All right, we'll obviously monitor that
Yes.
as we've been doing
Yes.
week after week. On defense, Kravon Leblanc out of this game. I had actually forgotten about that, and of course Craig James out too, so they're out.
Yeah, so they're
two
light.
special
They don't
team
have a lot
players,
of depth at corner right now, though Maddox is ready to go.
Yeah, there you go. Now, Malik Jackson, whose status earlier in the week was a little bit cloudy, it sounds like he's going to give it a go.
Yeah, so the guys returning, that's a big one. Now, it is interesting, though, that despite losing Ridgeway for the season, they have Jackson coming back, and only missed the 1 game, and he did take in his starters reps on Friday. they're going to have enough depth. They have 2 guys they brought up from the practice squad, so they're actually going to be okay at D tackle.
Yeah, I believe one of the guys they brought up was Rayquan Williams.
Yes,
correct?
they're really excited about. Yeah.
A guy Adam and I talked about a lot in the preseason podcast from Michigan State. Played a lot of games, started a lot. People liked him as a rookie free agent signing.
I thought he was a draftable player.
Yeah,
I really
That's
did.
the info we got.
Yeah.
Why do you think he didn't get drafted?
I can't.
Just
speak
one of
to
those
that.
things where
No,
guys.
but what kind of
swing
traits?
back.
What kind of traits does he have?
You know, he's a good-sized kid. I thought he showed some quickness. I mean, I remember watching his tape, and I didn't study him in great detail, because I can't study everybody.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing him and thinking, this guy has traits. This guy moves well. He's got good size. He's got quickness off the ball. He showed some burst. I thought for sure he was a draftable player. You never know why guys don't get drafted, but I thought for sure he had draftable traits.
All right, also coming back, T.J. Edwards. Adam reported last game that he would have been healthy enough to play, but he was still on injured reserve. Well, he's not only healthy, but eligible to play tonight. Interestingly enough, Nate Gary, everybody's favorite whipping guy, right? He is out for the rest of the year. He's on IR.
Not rest of the year. It's just
I'm sorry. He's on IR. It could just be. I forget that it's just good 3 games.
It is.
It almost doesn't allow us to see what would have happened with all the healthy
who would have
linebackers.
played.
Well, that's
Edwards
what's going to
or
be
Garrett.
interesting
Yeah.
tonight.
Good.
Yeah.
What's going to be interesting is because Dallas plays so much 11, who the linebackers will be when, the 2 linebackers when they're in sub-nickel.
It's a great question. Well, Singleton will be one of them.
Singleton will be one of them, and he deserves to be one of them, by the way.
Right.
Sure.
He's been their best linebacker since he started playing.
Absolutely. So the question is, does the other nickel linebacker become Edwards, or is it Duke Riley, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the question.
Riley's probably better in coverage, but I remember you had heard.
Riley's a more athletic player.
Right.
Correct.
I heard, Jeff, I remember you putting on our show in the summer that you had heard that Edwards is getting more time in practice in nickel.
He was actually.
He was playing some nickel before he got hurt,
He
by the
was
way.
playing
go.
nickel.
There you go.
He was battling it out with Duke Riley for the right to start next to Nate Gary in the nickel in the 2 linebacker package, and he also lost weight in the offseason to become a little bit better in
you go.
coverage. We
I
see
wish
that
I
a
did.
lot. Yeah, I took it all from him.
So the shack is really big.
Trey, if it was you, I'm putting your defensive coordinator cap on. Who are your 2 nickel linebackers?
I'll probably go Alex Singleton and Duke Riley.
Okay, Duke Riley for the athleticism.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Kravon Wallace also healthy and able to play tonight. For the first time in a while, Eagles have some healthy safeties and can do some things here.
And I'll tell you what, and I know this is out there, so I could definitely address it. So Will Parks is definitely available. I say this because the Eagles have 5 safeties plus LeBlanc when he's healthy as an extra 6 if they want to use him at safety. So you don't need 6 safeties. You really only need 4 in your active roster. So look, if the Eagles could get something for him, it wouldn't surprise me if they traded him.
Traded who?
Will Parks.
Really?
Yeah, and remember, he
block.
only played 15 snaps last week. I was surprised by that.
This was one of the more, I don't want to, maybe puzzling free agent additions. Not why they did it, but Greg, I remember talking to you about it. You really like Will Parks.
Yeah, I do.
There were a couple other people who were really high on him, and yet he signed a 1-year kind of minimum kind of deal. So the accolades weren't matching the contract, and I couldn't figure out why and what would the disconnect
others
was.
obviously didn't think as highly.
Oh, yeah, and now he's on the block.
that happens.
He's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
If he stays, I want to see if he could get in that 3 safety rotation. They call them positionless players back there at safety. It's kind of like the words that the coaches use there.
You're not getting all Sixers on us, are you?
Yeah, but they wanted to use him as a box safety.
Right.
Use him as a linebacker a little bit. Some of that Malcolm Jenkins role, and unfortunately he missed 6 weeks, and that clearly set him back.
He did. Well, if you think the Eagles are beat up, let's go talk about the Cowboys. They are down not 1, not 2. Well, two starting quarterbacks for them. Dak Prescott, everybody knows, is out. Andy Dalton got the concussion from his game last week, got hit the late hit from Bostic, and so we will see rookie Ben DiNucci, the 7th-round pick out of JMU, making his starting debut tonight. We will definitely get into that. Blake Jarwin continues to be out with the knee for him?
He's done for the season.
He's done for the year,
Out for the
ACL.
year, They're very beat up on the offensive line. They will not have Lael Collins. They will not have Tyron Smith. Brandon Knight.
Yeah, his backup is out. Yep.
His backup is out, and so you're going to get a whole patchwork offensive line for Dallas there. But they have Connor Williams, their left guard, and it sounds like Zach Martin is going to play
back.
tonight.
Yep.
So, Greg, I mean, the Dallas offensive line has obviously taken a beating as well, but those 2 guards are fairly good.
Yeah, the question is, and I heard during the week, and I don't know if Adam, you have any info on this, that Zach Martin, they might even play him in a right tackle.
Which they've done before. Yeah.
So I don't know how if that happens or not.
Right.
Because if not, they're really not very good at
Greg,
tackle.
Cam Irving, who's more of a guard, and right
And
tackle.
maybe a center.
Right, but not a left tackle, which he played last week. How rough is that?
That's a tough deal. I mean, again, we say this every week because it's the strength of the Eagles' defense is their D-line, but they have to dominate with that group tonight.
Yeah.
Like, if they don't dominate with that group against the Cowboys' O-line, then it's not going to be good for the Birds.
So if Zach Martin starts at right guard, then
even if he starts at right tackle, I mean, he's a really good guard, but as Trey could explain better than I, it's not the same position.
Right. Right, and it almost seems like we have that same conversation about Pryor or because if he plays right guard, then they have to play Terrence Steele at right tackle, and he's been kind of overwhelmed.
A rookie, yeah. Greg's right. They should dominate. Now, last week the Eagles' D-line was good, but not great. This time, against a 7th-round pick who shouldn't be playing and shouldn't even be dressing, is playing this week. This is a game where they have to win.
Right.
Eagles' D-line must win this game.
Right. Chidobe Owozie.
Yeah, he was not. They did not activate him on Saturday.
That's a tough one because now they have to play Trayvon Diggs a little bit more, and he's been.
Well, Diggs has been starting all year, and they've actually used him as a matchup corner.
Right. Okay.
So he's actually, for the most part, he's played pretty well.
Yeah.
So the other corner will probably be Anthony Brown.
Okay.
Now, isn't he more of a nickel corner? He has played nickel in the slot.
Yes, but it'll be Jordan Lewis, I'm sure, in the slot.
So that's another advantage the Eagles have if they protect Wentz, and also Tristan Hill, who was starting for Gerald McCoy, who's lost for the season. He's lost for the season due to an ACL. Tristan Hill is so.
And they cut Terry Poe.
Right. They
Which
just
tape
cut Poe.
clearly suggested that he should be cut because I watch the Cowboys every week, and
he looks like he's
bad.
losing it. So he's in his
bad.
30s. So Eagles have yet another opportunity if they want to run the football to be successful.
You've got injuries. No, you've got injuries. No,
Right.
you got injuries.
a lot.
Will the Eagles run the ball? That'll be a fascinating question that we'll dive into as well. Last but not least, Sean Lee from
PSU.
Penn State. That's right. We don't want to talk about yesterday. He can come back if I'm.
Yeah, he's
not
back.
mistaken.
Yeah, he's
He'll
back.
be back.
He's activated.
Smart veteran player,
Yeah.
and we'll see what kind of. He gets hurt a lot, but we'll see what he adds.
Well,
to
and that
Dallas
raises the
defense.
question again of how much he plays, given what the Eagles decide to do with their personnel packages.
Absolutely. The only big news, really, from a transaction standpoint is, as we said, Nate Gary and Jannard Avery both going on IR this week, and Hakeem Butler is no longer.
No.
He gets cut from the 53-man. That was one great snap, Trey.
I mean, it was one beautiful snap.
Got to catch it.
Yeah, you gotta
Fight
catch
for it. Fight for
And
it.
on that play, that was the same play that Lane Johnson went down. So
Yeah. So I guess Hakeem Butler became the fall guy for that one as well.
Yes.
All right. So again, please help us share, retweet. We're going to get into this matchup. Also, like we did last Thursday night, I got the Google Doc up here. Our production crew, Rebel Hill, is going to help. Rebel Hill is going to help. If you leave a question in the chat box on YouTube, we'll try to answer it. I already see we got a few questions that we're going to get into from our viewers, so we'll get into those as the show goes on. But leave a question in the chat box. I'll bring it up here off the laptop, and we'll try to get to it. All right, let's get into the game, fellas. You guys ready? Buckle up.
Yep.
It's Clash of Titans here, right? 2 wins versus 2 wins.
Yeah.
Big time rivalry, though. We'll see.
Well, we mentioned that the Eagles are getting healthy on the right at the right time. Dallas has struggled miserably on defense all year. They're also kind of toiling on offense lately with their quarterback situation. Going into the year, we thought this was going to be the game for first place. And know what? It is.
So did NBC.
Yes, so
Yeah.
did NBC. It is. They're right.
Schedule's
It's just-
schedule's made in the
Nobody
spring.
knew it would be
Yeah.
2 wins each and going at it. Adam, if I ask you, where's the I mean, you've seen coaches criticizing the players criticizing coaches, coach criticized the players. The owner/GM was on sports radio this week, and he had to apologize for being very abrasive in the interview. It's a mess right now there.
Yeah, it tells you about the kind of locker room they have when players are giving anonymous quotes, ripping the coaches already. You would think like by week 15 or 16, if they're out of it, you would do that. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing it this early, it doesn't help anything. Look, we had here in Philly when Jim Washburn was ripping Juan Castillo, okay? We had that issue, and then Andy Reid took care of it after they landed the plane. They got rid of Jim.
Yeah, I remember that.
But you can't have this. You've been in locker rooms your whole
Yeah.
career. When this happens, what's the mindset of the players right now?
Yeah, I mean, when guys start going out and making these type of comments, then now it starts making everybody not trust each other because you don't want to say anything around anybody because you don't want to be part of that anonymous quote. So I think that it just causes ripples that's going to continue to go on until these guys just nip it in the bud. It shows a lack of leadership as well because once you start having something like that, there's no one in there to say, all right, look, we need to bring a halt to that so that we can move together as a team.
Well, let me ask you this. I don't remember it being like this at any time where it was bad with Andy, where you had so much ripping and even into Chip Kelly. I don't remember it being this bad all in 1 week. Can you recover from it when it happens this early?
Yeah, you can recover from it.
I know winning is the elixir here,
Yeah.
but they're not equipped right now to be winning a lot of games with the personnel they've got to get here.
Yeah, I mean, you bring the team together. I mean, this is something where you have to have a team meeting, and everybody needs to come together and try to all right, look, let's clear the air so that we can move forward. Because if not, this is what you're going to continue to deal with. But since it's Dallas, I'm good with that. Let them continue to have all of that.
But I will say this.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost in all that, and who knows, maybe they come out tonight and get shut out and they're awful. Maybe that happens.
Sure.
But the fact is, they've got 3 big play wide receivers, okay? And at any point in a game, those guys can make plays, big plays, okay? It's not like the Eagles' defense is a dominant shutdown defense. So let's be careful about just acting like the Cowboys are done and gone and the season's over.
2 years ago, and I know Dak was the quarterback, but 2 years ago when the Jason Garrett staff thought they were getting fired, they came into Philly and won. That actually turned the season around. So Greg's right. You never know what's going to happen from game to game, especially this season. But when you look at this game, this is a game the Eagles must win. They have a lot of advantages here. They're actually getting a little bit healthier than Dallas is. Dallas is getting some players back, as you were saying. But this is a game you must win. And I know they're on a bye next week, but it's setting up for them to win this game.
I feel like you can look at this game 2 ways. A lot of people have chosen to go back to the, what was it, the 2010 game? 2010, the Joe Webb, the infamous Tuesday night.
Against Minnesota. Yeah, here.
Infamous Tuesday night loss. But then last year, I mean, you don't have to go back too far to find an example of when the Eagles smelled the blood. The Jets were on their third-string quarterback, a guy who had not played a whole lot of ball. And, they went out there and really got the job done. So I feel like the fans this week have been caught between which game is this going to be. I think the Dallas part of it makes people feel like it can't just be like the Jets last year because they know it's a rivalry game.
Yeah, because you need you guys to come out there and really show some energy and play with a little something in their blood. Because, I mean, having fans in the stadium is definitely going to help, give you some guys to kind of feed off of, being a Sunday night game. But, I mean, this is one of, like you said, they need to come out here and just dominate this game from beginning to end. Cannot give a young quarterback any time. You need to keep pressure on them at all times. And then offensively, we need to make sure that we protect, man, because, I mean, when you have so many changes with our offensive line, I mean, you right now you're leading the league in sacks. I mean, you've already given up so many quarterback hits. I'm trying to get Carson through the season.
I hear you on that. All right, with Rager back, and now Folgham, Rager, Dallas Goedert, Ward's been playing well. The Eagles have a chance here to hit Dallas where it hurts because the Dallas secondary especially has been pretty bad all year. In fact, the entire Dallas defense is record-setting and not in a good way for the Cowboys. If you go ahead.
I'm gonna reveal something that a very well-respected personnel man had said from another team, which I put on the Fanatic 2 weeks ago. He said the Dallas defense is basically not competitive.
Not competitive. Wow.
He said they're so bad in their gaps and their assignments, and they're looking at each other. And I think you actually mentioned that on our show on Thursday or Friday. It's embarrassing because Mike Nolan's been around a long time. He's a better coach than this.
Well, those are two different things,
right.
though.
But they're not executing.
Integrity and not executing is different than not being competitive.
But they're not executing, and they're better than this, you would think. And they're taught better than this, but it's embarrassing how bad they are, Jeff. I've not seen a defense this bad in a long time.
I mean, last week they gave up a 50-yard touchdown to McLaurin, and it was against Diggs, and they were playing cover 4, and Diggs is a corner. Now, a corner in cover 4 has 0 run responsibility, okay? And Diggs is looking into the backfield.
Unbelievable.
By the way,
McLaurin
don't give away
runs
too
by
much.
him.
We have that queued up later. We're going to get into it.
But I'm just saying, so I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm sure the personnel guys probably studied them in more detail and depth than I have, so I'm not disagreeing with you. But I don't look at that as being non-competitive. I look at that as just being a horrendous assignment mistake.
But why is it happening every week?
That I can't answer.
Right. It's the same stuff.
Isn't that, Trey, maybe where the marriage comes between coaches are trying to instill certain things each week in practice and correct mistakes, and if the players are continuing to make the same mistakes, then you wonder about the competitive desire in them to want to be better.
Yeah, because then now if you're not, if a coach is constantly trying to correct some of these mistakes, and you keep making them, then now that's on the player.
Yes.
That's on the player. Now you need to look at the players. Now if the player is making, because To me, it's like, all right, if player is making the same mistake and is never corrected by the coaching, then you're looking at the coaching.
Of course.
But if the coaching is trying to correct those mistakes, then now and the players don't perceive it, that's a problem.
I will say the one thing on Mike Nolan that I've heard from players over the years is his scheme sometimes a little bit too hard early on to learn when he changes. You know, he comes in, he completely changed their defense. Sometimes the players have trouble processing early, and then they, again, anonymously, Jeff, I'm pretty certain they were complaining about the defense.
I would think
the
so.
defense was horrendous.
Yeah, well, it came earlier, not this past week, but the week before. So at that point, I think Dak had just gotten hurt. They were scoring points. It was the defense.
Right. Defense
that was completely bad.
Well, can I say one more thing?
Yeah. It's your show, Greg. I just throw it to you. You can say whatever you want.
It's your world, Jeff. We're just living in it.
It's definitely not.
Trey could probably speak to this more from an offensive standpoint, but I guess when McCarthy gets hired as head coach and he brings in Mike Nolan, I'm sure they have a conversation and they talk about philosophy. Mike Nolan has a track record. So Nolan probably says, hey, look, here's what I want to do defensively. Here's the direction I'd like to move. And McCarthy says, great, I think that's a good idea. So now, granted, this was a pandemic off season, but I doubt that what Mike Nolan is teaching is so different and so complex that no one could figure it out. So at what point, as Trey said, do the players bear responsibility here?
Yeah.
Well, I want to get into that, and also the idea of what, as a coach, could you realistically expect in a pandemic season to try to implement to your entirely new defense with new schemes.
But they're not
So
the
we'll
only
talk
team
about
with a new staff, by the way.
That is correct.
So,
That's correct. A lot to dissect.
It's still football. I mean, you've been doing football since high school.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
not,
Absolutely.
we're not out there repairing the shuttle. I mean,
Thankfully for that. Let's get into how bad the defense has been in Dallas. I want to give our viewers a little bit of an idea of just how, because some of these numbers
This
are
is what I mean.
staggering.
Incredible.
First of all, they're 27th in the league in yards per game. They allow over 400 yards per game, 408.1. They're allowing 34.7 points per game. That's worst in the league.
they'd be first in the Big 12, probably.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Rushing yards per game, dead last. They allow 178 yards on the ground per game. What is this, 1985?
I know, no one's even running anymore.
Who even
They're gonna
runs
have
that much to
178.
get 180 yards? Certainly
They
not
don't do
the
anything
Eagles.
right on defense. That's
No,
the
it's
thing.
unbelievable. Third down their percentage are 27th in the league, and pass plays are 40 or more yards. They've already allowed 6. That's tied for the second worst in the NFL. They've allowed the most points through Week 7 in their team history. So this is the worst Dallas defense through 7 weeks already on record, and the most points allowed by an NFL team through 7 weeks since 1973. Some of us weren't born that year.
Wow.
I don't want to say anything, but it was the Houston Oilers.
I was in high school.
In 1970. You were in high school. I was -3. Were you born? Yeah, you
no,
weren't born.
I was 74.
All right, so you have to go
That
back
makes
to us being in the
you. Oh,
womb.
okay.
No, so it's pretty bad. So, all right, I'll ask you. I'll start with you, Greg. So you've watched their defense.
I have.
They give up a lot of yards on the ground. They give up a lot of yards in the air. But which one do you think is really dogging them the most right now?
I guess I would say in the air, because the worst thing you want to do as a defense and a defensive coordinator is give up big play touchdowns.
Right.
But, I mentioned that Trayvon Diggs last week. Darryl Worley, who's since been cut, 2 weeks ago on Monday night, gives up an 80-yard touchdown to Christian Kirk. Now, and Trey made a great point. One coverage was cover 3 and one coverage was cover 4. These are not complex things. It's not like Mike Nolan is reinventing the wheel here, and creating brand new defenses. So, but I'll give you an example in the run game. And Dontari Poe got cut this week too. They gave up a 12-yard touchdown run this week to Antonio Gibson, which to me was a summation of their run defense and all the problems with it. Poe just got washed out by the double team like he wasn't even there. Justin Hamilton got reached
Former
on a
Eagle,
play.
by the way.
Justin Hamilton got reached on a play he should never have gotten reached, and I have no idea where Jalen Smith's eyes were, because he flew out of there on a run that was right up the gut. So, those are the kinds of mistakes they make every single week.
All right, well, I told our viewers on the podcast we have a treat for them this week, because we're going to go inside the film room and look at all of the breakdowns that we've seen from that. Not every single one, but we're going to.
Well, we'd be here for 5 hours.
Yeah, I know. It's a limited show here.
See, I told you.
But Well, we are going
terrible.
to check out exactly what you were saying about Mike Nolan's schemes and the players within them and what's going wrong with all the miscommunication. So let's take a look right now. His defense has been a mess all year, plagued by blown coverages and communication issues. Let's take a look at an example against the Falcons. They're in what appears to be a 3-deep coverage with a box safety. What is going on? I'm hitting the button and it's not going.
Can we try maybe try spacebar? Spacebar might be play pause.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to do that.
It also might have something to do with the other programs being open, but as long as you're there, you can just use spacebar.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
The Cowboys defense has been a mess all year, plagued by blown assignments and communication issues. Let's take a look at a play against the Falcons. They appear to be in what's a 3-deep coverage with a box safety. Atlanta is going to run a simple play action. It's just a 2-man route. You can see the X receiver crossing over the middle of the field, but you can also notice that tight end Hayden Hurst is going to leak out basically all by himself, because instead of passing the receiver off to the post safety, Chidobe Awuzie follows him over the field, leaving a wide open region for Matt Ryan to connect with Hayden Hurst for an easy 43-yard touchdown. Way too easy against the Dallas defense. A similar breakdown here against the Seahawks. Again, you'll see Dallas has its safeties positioned deep. The Seahawks are under center in 11 personnel. They're going to run a simple play action. And just again, it's a 2-man route, but this time it's the safeties that are get confused, caught looking. Well, thanks to our friends from Leverage Studios for the professional illustration on that video. That was a sight for sore eyes if you were a Dallas fan, because what you saw a lot of was lack of fundamentals, miscommunication, and Greg, you had already mentioned it, and we highlighted it there. Terry McLaurin just running by Trayvon Diggs, who even said after the game, I got my eyes looking in the backfield. I mean, kind of basic fundamentals are failing this team right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to rip coaches, and you know, in our social media world, that's what people do. But these are just basic mistakes in basic coverage schemes. There's nothing really complicated. They were playing cover 4.
At some point, and Greg's alluding to it, they're probably going to get it right from a mental standpoint, and from a physical standpoint, they have it. From a mental standpoint, Greg's talking about a guy looking in the backfield when he knows he's not supposed to. These guys have played football their whole life. They're going to get it at some point, but because it's happening every week, and there's been no, they're getting corrected. But Jeff, they're making the same mistakes every week.
Yeah.
So there's no way to know when it's going to manifest itself and get better. But this is such a great opportunity for the Eagles tonight to get this done.
Yeah, I mean, Trey, if you're Carson Wentz, you got to be looking at these breakdown after breakdown, thinking, I can finally get that deep ball back here.
Carson is worried about
getting protected.
Are y'all going to protect me up front?
Yeah.
You know, and then if so, then I'll look maybe possibly can get something downfield. But I need y'all up front. You 5 up front to make sure that you protect me.
Yeah.
And you can never go into a game, and Trey knows this, thinking, well, I'm going to do well because they're going to screw up.
Yeah, no.
You,
Of course,
you can never think like that, no matter how bad the Cowboys have been in terms of fundamental execution, which has not been good. You can never go into a game like that.
Because it only takes one play.
Right.
I mean, it can only take one play, and then that thing can turn on you real quick.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And obviously, they're going to need plays on the other side, too, on offense. They've been struggling there, along with the defense. Obviously, you lose Dak Prescott. Then you got Andy Dalton. You lose him, and they have to go to their third-string quarterback, rookie Ben DiNucci from Western Pennsylvania. So that's a good, you know, Joe
pedigree,
Montana,
right?
Who else we got?
Pretty
Dan Marino.
No, the
Yeah,
pedigree.
Joe
Joe
Namath. Right?
Joe Namath, okay.
Jim Kelly.
Yep.
Jim Kelly. The list goes on and on.
Tyler Palko.
Tyler Palko. We had to stop at that one. He went to Pitt, transferred to James Madison University. Kind of described as a cocky kid by his own coach, so it'll be very interesting. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see if the moment is big or not for him. Obviously, it's a gift-wrapped opportunity for the Eagles. However, it's also an opportunity for Ben DiNucci to kind of shock the world.
Well, you hope if you're the Eagles, he doesn't. But the thing from talking to someone who did scouting on him before the season, he's a kid who's pretty confident. And talking to someone who's very close to him this week, he wasn't too big for that moment. Look, the offensive line got engulfed last week in the rain. They were playing with a bunch of backups. But the word from a scouting community is the moment's not too big for him. So that's what I was talking about before with you, Jeff, when we were doing our show last week. I'm coming at him. I don't care how tough the kid is. Dallas has had their issues on the offensive line. I'm bringing it. You were talking about the Luke Falk game last year, 11 sacks.
Right.
Where Schwartz has never blitzed like this. There's somewhere between 47 and 50%. I'm doing this. I'm making him beat me. And I'm going to make that offensive line try to protect this quarterback.
Absolutely. I mean, when you go back and you watch them against Washington, I mean, and Washington really didn't even blitz that much. I mean, they just sent their front four and got after him. And, and it made him hold on to the ball because he look out there and he looked confused in that game. And he was like, which way do I go? Sack. There you go. So, I would definitely come after him, especially with a depleted offensive line. I would bring everything you can to kind of keep him confused and keep his head on the swivel. Then every now and then drop back in coverage.
One thing, when you're playing with a third-string quarterback, you were the left tackle and Coy Detmer had to play, right?
Yeah.
From a player standpoint, is it in your mind, okay, we need to help him? Because he probably shouldn't even be out there?
Well, with Coy, he got rid of the ball a lot quicker.
Or was it A.J. Feely?
Yeah, Coy got rid of it, man. Coy got in there. He was, so he made it a little easier for
it was actually A.J. Feely, right? He was the third-string quarterback. It was Coy, then A.J. Feely.
Yeah, so you always want to protect, man, but it just like you want to make sure that you don't have anyone else go down because, I mean, who wants to be that offensive line that has that third-string quarterback go down?
Oh, well, Greg, I know you spent a lot of time this week going through some JMU tape to get an idea of Ben DiNucci. What did you see?
Yeah, yesterday and this morning I watched 4 games from his senior year when he was. They made it to the championship game. Whatever college
FCS
football division
game?
Yeah. I lose all the letters.
D1AA, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I took a lot of notes, and it's funny you talk about being under pressure. He was not under much pressure in the 4 games I watched, but there were snaps in which he definitely perceived pressure and broke down in the pocket prematurely. And I think you want to play off that. But he's very rhythmic. The offense was built that way, like a lot of college offenses are. It's very rhythmic. The ball comes out fast because they were a shotgun-based offense. So he definitely also adds a running game element to their offense. He can do the zone read. They did quarterback draw. They ran basic concepts over and over and over again. Concepts you see in the NFL because there's not 1,000 pass game concepts. So they ran things like mesh, smash, high-low concepts. And I think these are things you'll probably see because he'll be comfortable with those concepts.
Sure. Jim Schwartz spoke earlier this week about trying to get an idea of what Ben DiNucci does best. And as Greg did, he had to go all the way back to college to take a look at his JMU tape as well. He talked about it earlier this week. So let's hear from the Eagles defensive coordinator on how they prepared for rookie Ben DiNucci.
Yeah, we were on that tape yesterday. Watching some of his college film, just getting a feel more for him as an athlete and, some of the throws that he made and things like that. Anybody that makes an NFL team is good enough to play. So I think you start there. That's going to get your respect right away. You're good enough to make a 53-man roster that deserves our respect. Just watching him run some zone read stuff when he was at JMU. Our scouting staff has really helped us, that way. Our scout Jim Ward has watched him since he was at Pitt. Actually, saw him when he was a high school player, and just that, those kind of inputs and that kind of perspective helps us. You're right. Dalton does have a good body of work, but we'll be ready. Whoever's out there at quarterback.
All right, you just heard from Eagles defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz. Greg, I'm going to go back to you. When you see his JMU tape, and you mentioned some of the college-y stuff that you don't always see in the NFL, what's for him, based on what you saw, what's his objective tonight?
Well, if you just, obviously when I looked at him, I looked at his traits, and I looked at those traits within the context of the offense that he was asked to run in college. I would say he's an easy thrower with a compact delivery, but he's not a power thrower. He's a pace and touch thrower. And he has an issue that I always feel is troublesome, and you can play in the league with it, but it's troublesome, is he tends to lift his back foot off the ground a little too soon. And that's one reason he's not a velocity thrower. Alex Smith played in the league a long time like that. Mitchell Trubisky throws like that, and he's, of course, been benched. But the one thing you have to be careful of, he does have second reaction movement ability.
Right.
So, again, you can blitz him and rush him, but if he gets outside the pocket, he can make plays on the move. And that's that's the thing I was talking about with their 3 receivers. And Trey made the point, it takes one play, or you have to be careful about that. He does have that ability.
Was it annoying, Trey, to you to ever have to face a D end that just was making his first start and you didn't have any NFL tape on him? And
I hated playing guys like that, because you just don't know what you're dealing with.
Right.
You don't know what their move is. You don't know, you had to kind of feel it out. And I wasn't a guy that was going to go back and watch college film of him. And, who cares about that? So, I mean, I didn't do it.
What were the breakdowns in the O-line room during the week if it was a guy that had not played yet? How would they get you ready?
You just got to go out there and just feel it. You're going to have to feel it. Because I rarely, though, would something like that happen with preseason games and all of that.
Right.
So you would always have something that you can see
right.
on it. But now this is something totally new.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about what the Eagles are going to do to this Dallas team. First, be sure to check out Philadelphia Sports Nation for all your latest Philadelphia sports news covering all 4 teams, the Eagles, the Flyers, the Sixers, the Phillies. Actually make it 5 because they cover the Union very well too. And their goal is to enhance your experience with all of their great coverage. Enhancing the Philadelphia sports fan experience at phlsportsnation.com, and you can find them on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation. Well, one guy who should benefit tonight from all those breakdowns that we've seen in the Dallas secondary is Travis Folgham, who himself is emerging as a star receiver for the Eagles. He had 5 more catches against the Giants for 73 yards. He didn't have a touchdown, so that streak came to an end.
He was open for one.
But he was open for one.
No,
That's right.
See, I disagree.
Someone with the Eagles said, "Okay, go ahead. What do you say?"
I disagree.
What do you say? What'd you say?
Because I think he was open way after the design of the play. I know exactly what play you're talking about. It's a 3rd down play where he threw it to Deshaun.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
And I think he was open unless Wentz's
He wasn't
drop,
going that way, though. Right.
Unless
He wasn't going that way.
Wentz's drop
Right.
was incorrect,
Right.
which I doubt it was, then the play was designed because there was a natural pick concept for Deshaun to cut underneath on the quick slant, and that's where the ball was designed to go. Folgham was open a second after that, which was not within the timing of the drop.
Okay. All right, so you're saying that the pick concept had to be the first.
That was the design of the play.
Right.
Now the Giants played it well. Okay. Who I forget which corner or whether it was the safety of the corner kind of read the natural rub concept and jumped it pretty well. But that was the design of the play. It was meant to gain. It was 3rd and maybe 5. It was not 3rd and long. And it was meant to get a first down. But no, I know exactly what play you're talking about.
He wins. He wins, and he wins. I mean, I'd heard like the Giants rolled a little coverage over to him. He beat it. That's a really good sign. It's an incredible sign for a guy who just got here, continues to win. And at some point, we're going to start seeing double coverage.
Yeah.
If this kid keeps doing it. But here's the thing. You had Rager. Trey, you had Goddard.
Yeah.
You've got Hightower could fly, who's their shot play guy.
Yeah.
Rager might be tonight. I'm interested to see how they're going to spread them out tonight.
Yeah, and that's the thing I like about when Carson doesn't have like a big name player around him. He spreads the ball around. You go back and you look at against the Giants. I think this is the first time in a long time that you saw that he had 11 targets in that game. I mean, that's pretty big. That's a big change up for Carson. So hopefully having Dallas back in his lineup doesn't make him feel like he has to get him involved in the game plan.
Yeah, well, certainly since the start of Week 4, Folgham is actually up there with some of the biggest names. His 357 yards are tied for third most in the NFL, and his 3 touchdown catches are tied for 2nd most. I think the thing I find very interesting about Folgham, when you talk about kind of the pantheon of Eagles wide receivers over the last 10 or 15 years, is he's different. You've seen the Eagles have speed guys. You've seen Alshon Jeffrey, who was a contested catch guy, although I think he was actually better at that in Chicago when he caught a lot of back shoulder. Folgham is very complete. He can run past you. He's got great hands. He can high point. He can pretty much do everything when you make your list.
He checks all the boxes as far as traits.
Yeah.
Right. So we actually prepared another video to show just how dominant Travis Folgham has been for the Eagles over the past few weeks, and we're going to check that out right now. Let's look at Travis Folgham. Talk about Travis Folgham. You got to talk first about competitive toughness, athleticism, and positional versatility. Now, you remember his first touchdown against the 49ers. He lines up at the X spot, and here you see him basically shove off that contact from the corner around the 35-yard line while maintaining his balance and keeping his eyes on the ball in the air. Takes another hit after the catch, but rocks it into the end zone for a 42-yard touchdown. You look at the other angle, and you see that Carson Wentz just trusts him implicitly to make this play. Puts a beautiful pass up. Folgham catches it, waltzes into the end zone for a touchdown. The legend of Travis Folgham begins. All right, here's a play against the Steelers. Now, this time he's lined up in the slot. You see the Steelers are showing a 2-deep coverage, but the cornerback, Mike Hilton, is in his hip as he hugs the seam. Carson's going to throw this ball up anyway in the place where only Travis Folgham can catch it. He goes up, high points it. What a beautiful showcase of high pointing and hands, and he makes the catch while the safeties converge. Now, also against the Steelers, he lines up in a number split here, and you're going to see a great example of route running. He's going to attack the inside leverage of cornerback Steven Nelson, and by the time he makes his move, Nelson is already facing the opposite direction, so that when Folgham breaks to the outside, Nelson has to turn his whole body around just to keep the coverage. By then, it doesn't matter. The pass is out. Folgham goes up, and once again, a really nice high point, sees the ball in, takes the contact from Nelson. First down, Philadelphia Eagles. All right, here's against the Giants where he's lined up in a different spot. He's lined up at the Z spot in the number split. He's going to run a fake out and then an up the sideline kind of route. Gets behind the coverage. Once again, Carson puts the ball up high and underthrown. That's okay because Folgham can just do a 180-degree spin while he's in the air to catch the ball, hangs on, gets the extra yards after the catch. So you just saw it all. Athleticism, yards after the catch, positional versatility, and all of that has enabled him to have the trust of Carson Wentz to be able to just throw the ball up, make a play knowing that Travis Folgham will get the ball. All right, again, big thanks to our friends at Leverage Studios for the professional telestration. That's 2 great videos they telestrated for us, and they will be a part of the show going forward. So we thank our friends at Leverage Studios. Guys, Folgham just shows you everything. The complete package, high pointing, physical, can beat man, can beat zone, pretty much done everything he's been asked to do. He's on pace for 918 yards. He might get over 1,000. Hard to believe, but he would only be the 5th wide receiver for the Eagles since the start of 2000 to be a 1,000-yard receiver. Wow. I mean, all the passing they do, that's pretty good company.
That is pretty interesting.
And one of those guys on the list, I think, did it in like over 2 games.
1,000 yards in 2 games?
No. But Kevin Curtis is the guy who had the unbelievable game against the Lions. Oh, my. Wear those crazy uniforms, Trey. What's up with those uniforms?
I don't know. That was terrible.
Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, T.O., and Kevin Curtis. Those are the 4. That's pretty good company for Travis Folgham. At least 3 of those guys. Wow. It's good company for Travis Folgham where he's headed. How surprised are you? Like when a guy just all of a sudden can come out of nowhere to do that, Trey?
Yeah, I mean, it makes you. That's good that he stepped in there and just came in there and do your thing. You never know when someone just needs an opportunity. I know guys in the locker room that's probably seen him at practice, probably have been like they've seen him go out there and make plays, but then now once he gets that opportunity, he took advantage of it, and that's extremely rare sometimes when guys get that opportunity not always ready. Right. But I think he really took advantage of it, and he's shining.
And Adam, you've reported before that it's not like every team didn't know who this guy was. I mean, he was on radars coming out of ODU.
He was. The Eagles had a draftable grade. He went in the 6th round. He's been cut, I think, 4 times. Lions, a couple, 2 or 3 times. Packers. I was there that first day, and I saw the trade. See, this is the problem with training camp, Jeff. Mm-hmm. You don't quite know how to put in proper context because there are no preseason games. Trey was talking about there's no offseason. You have 2.5 weeks of training camp, so you don't know what's real or not. We've been through the days of Nay Brown and Hank Baskett, so you don't know if you want to trust it. But when he runs as well as he did, and you see him make catch after catch, you go, okay, he at least has the traits. Maybe he'll be on their practice squad if they cut him. Well, one thing led after another, and he's taken advantage of the opportunity. See, this is what it's all about, guys. When you get your opportunity, you better shine because you could be cut again. Yeah, exactly. And he's got tremendous urgency right now.
Greg, I mean, this is a real thing now. I think after week 1, people thought maybe kind of, week 2, okay. Mm-hmm. But now we're talking about 4 or 5 weeks where he's consistently showing you all the things that we saw there in the video.
And the key thing for him is he's on a team where they're not heavy at wide receiver, so he's been able to get targets. Right. But the thing that stands out to me, and obviously I've looked at wide receivers for a long time, is, and this is not necessarily an X and O thing, but I think there's also a physical presence to him.
Definitely.
Just watching him move. You know, there's definitely a physical presence. He's a big guy, and he plays big, and he looks big.
Yeah, that catch he made against the Giants where he did a 180 to get the ball.
You're talking about down the sideline, the 40-yarder?
Yeah, that was just everything. Physical. Yeah. At the point, you know, when we saw it there. There are a couple of times he makes the catch with the high point. Yeah. You see a lot of guys then get jarred and they don't bring it in. He brings it in. whether he's hitting the ground or the guys are hitting.
The Pittsburgh game, Greg, which was phenomenal. I mean, against a defense like that, you don't see teams do that to Steelers secondary. What did you see from Folgham's tape that game?
That was the game where he had the big numbers,
150 and a touchdown. Yeah, incredible.
Nothing different than other games. It's just that I think the other thing that I think he has, and whether he was taught this or he's just learned this, from saying, hey, I need to learn, is there is some subtle nuance to his route running. He does have a sense of how to use his vertical stem to win the leverage battle. Because unless you're playing press man, where you've just got to get rid of the press, if you're running routes against off coverage, you have to use your vertical stem. You've got to win versus leverage. And he has a sense of how to do that.
Right.
And I'm never surprised, because I've seen a lot of football in my life, but it was just really nice to see for a guy that obviously didn't play in the SEC, that didn't come out with a lot of fanfare, that had been cut. So obviously, wherever he's been, he's picked things up and taken it with him.
Yeah, and of course, right now, he has the trust from Carson Wentz. As we saw in the Ravens game against the cover zero, or the zero blitz, threw it up and Travis Fogel made a play.
Oh, no.
That was a lot of
Wentz
trust.
will throw it to him.
He will. In fact, we're going to talk about Carson Wentz right now. First, we're going to pause to hear a message from Carson Wentz and Sky Motor Vehicles.
Hi, this is quarterback Carson Wentz. I'm here to tell you about my friends at Sky Motor Cars. Sky Motor Cars is the premier luxury car dealership in the greater Philadelphia area that promises to provide honest and efficient service, whether you're buying, selling, or trading in your car. Go visit SkyMotorCars.com to learn more, and when you buy or sell your next vehicle with Sky, tell them Carson sent you.
Well, that was a sweet Dodge Charger I saw Carson Wentz sporting right there, courtesy of Sky Motor Cars. Adam, I know you're very fond of their work.
Yeah, my wife and I actually purchased a car through Breck Shoulder and Sky Motors last summer. And you go in their shop, their sales, they're great. Their service is fantastic. Get you in and out quickly, very, very professional. And they know what you want. And they've got every single type of car. It's not just all high-end cars. You could get a Volkswagen. You get any type you want. And the other thing is, for those of you watching around the country, they will ship your car. They do a lot of sales across the country. And by the way, other Eagles have gotten cars there. Going back to Sheldon Brown. John Hightower's gotten a car there. You just mentioned Carson Wentz has gotten a car there. A couple other guys have got Avante Maddox and I think Dallas Goedert. So yeah, man, they do a great job and really easy to get to. They're right off 202 in Westchester.
I can't wait to see your Dodge Charger.
That might be. I do want a faster car though.
I bet you do.
It's your muscle car?
Yeah, can you imagine?
Make sure you're checking them out.
My dad got a 240Z at 50 years old. This is going back many
That's
years.
awesome.
Yeah, so hey, he had a midlife crisis. I'm a little bit older than that right now, but anyway.
We should all have those kind of midlife crises.
Yes, exactly.
That's
I need some
great.
money though.
Awesome. Thanks again to Sky Motor Cars. Let's talk about Carson Wentz, who you saw in the video. Not his best game Thursday night against the Giants, and it was certainly kind of the sports talk fodder since. Is it that you applaud him for the heroics down the stretch, or did he have to be heroic to overcome the mistakes that he made early on, a bad interception in the end zone and a cross-quarter pass? But the bottom line is, fourth quarter, he's been lighting it up. He was 5 of 7, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, and on 153 passer rating on those final 2 drives. This week, Carson was asked specifically about that risk versus reward approach that he kind of takes into the game, and the bad passes, yet the big plays. I thought what he had to say was very interesting. So let's listen now to what Carson Wentz had to say about that.
Being able to improvise and go off schedule is a big part of what I do and what we do as a team, and maybe 2 minute brings that about more, certain situations. I'm not sure. But we're always talking about it. We're always talking about, being off schedule and guys getting open, creating plays downfield. And I've said it time and time again, there's a lot of big plays to be had in those moments. You're going to miss some opportunities, but always talk about walking that fine line of extending plays and pushing it and just throwing it away and taking the sacks. And so sometimes in those 2 minute moments or those late in the game situations, you're willing to try and extend and try and make the plays because you're down, or you need to rally and do something. But as far as the rest, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I think sometimes it just is the course of a game, and you start to figure out a defense. You start to understand. You make in-game adjustments and start playing quicker because you've seen the defense now for 3 quarters. You're able to read and react and make adjustments and play faster. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
All right, that was Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz. Trey, I want to ask you this because based on what Carson Wentz said and based on, I guess there's this growing theory that if you ask Carson Wentz to tone it down a little bit earlier in the game, then you're not going to get the great Carson Wentz in the fourth quarter. It's like you have to take one with the other, and I don't know if I buy into that. I think every week you're supposed to work on corrections and put your team in the best position to succeed. So how do you feel about that idea?
Yeah, I think you can try to kind of have them tone it down just a little bit. Now, don't be so risky with the ball. But again, you need to protect as well because on the one interception that happened, Jordan Mailata got bull rushed and was right in his lap, created the pressure.
Right, he could have thrown it away.
And then Carson started, not on the interception.
Oh, did
because
he?
that was the one where Carson got bull rushed and then Carson ended up spinning out of there and then making a bad throw. But then on the one particular site, that was just because of the blitz or whatever. So that was a whole different thing. But I think that, you protect them. You need to make sure that you protect them. And I think also Carson just still doesn't see the field at times. It's like it's always the first 2 reads. He never scans to the other side where you might have a guy that's running free.
What do you think, Greg? Can you ask Carson to be a little bit more smart with the football and still get the heroics at the end of the game?
My answer to that would be yes. I think that you work on that as a coach, but the player then, Carson has to figure that out because every game presents its own set of issues in terms of situational awareness, game awareness. Those happen organically throughout the course of a game. You can go over situations, coaches do this all the time, but every game plays out differently, and you don't know how a specific game will play out. So to me, situational awareness and game awareness and understanding what you can and can't do on a given play, that has to come with experience. I don't believe that, you lose his ability to be special if he has better game awareness in the first quarter. I don't buy that.
He just has to make better decisions.
Yeah.
You want him to be the risk taker. That's what has made him an elite talent. Now, he doesn't always play elite, but you definitely don't want to, Greg's right, you don't want to limit his greatness. Because if he starts thinking out there, the coach was wrong, I better not make that throw, because then it's in his head.
Yeah.
You got to let him rip.
Give you a quick example.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily going to compare Carson Wentz to Brett Favre, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, okay? But I remember speaking to Sterling Sharp, okay, who I've known for a long time. And he used to come to NFL Films all the time to do shows. And we got into this great discussion about Brett Favre. And he said to me, if it wasn't for Mike Holmgren, Brett Favre would have been out of the league in 3 years. Now, for the average fan, they probably think, oh no, Brett Favre's a Hall of Famer.
Right.
He'd be.
Right.
But he was making the point that you have to channel the talent at some point. And Brett Favre never lost his playmaking mindset or ability, but he became a precision player as well. You can do both.
Right.
With hard coaching. Holmgren
hard
coached him
Yes.
hard.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a totally unfair example, just like
No, and I'm not, like I said, I don't want people to listen to this and think, Carson Wentz, Brett Favre. That wasn't the point of what I just said.
I know, but it made me think, like, I go back to Pat Mahomes coming out of Texas Tech, and he would make some throws that people say you can't make.
And there were many people who didn't love him coming out, which is why he was drafted 10th, because they thought, that he was too reckless and too undisciplined and too out of control.
Right. Which he makes crazy throws, but he completes them. He doesn't often make really bad throws that land in the other team's hands, despite the fact that he can be a cowboy out there. And so that, I think, goes to our argument where you can be aggressive and you can be a swashbuckler, Trey, but you can also be smart and make sure you're not putting the ball in the other team's hands.
But like you said, I think you need hard coaching when you're dealing with a player like that. To kind of hone it in a little bit, to like make you focus a little bit on some of those easier throws, so that you don't have to have these three attitudes where you got to put on the cape at the end of the game.
Say it louder for the people in the back. He needs what?
You need hard coaching.
What?
Hard coaching.
Adam, is that something we might have talked about
3
a
years
little bit for how many years now?
Yeah.
Well, despite it, and we can argue whether he's getting coached harder enough or not, and then we talk about that a lot on the ITB pod. He does have 4 comeback wins from double digits since the start of 2019, which is tied for the most among quarterbacks, and that includes Drew Brees, Russell Wilson. So I get why some people say hey, man, if you're going to give me Drew Brees, Russell Wilson fourth quarters, I guess I can live with what you're giving me.
We all knew that when they were down 21-10 with 6 minutes to go, they were going to come back and win, right?
Speaking of that, so Greg, you ready for this one? So I texted
We knew Evan Ingram was just going to drop that ball.
So I texted him. I said, hey, they're going to lose, obviously, so let's start this podcast, the post-game show early. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, oops. They came back.
Meanwhile, I got the laptop on. I'm writing the story for the website, InsideTheBirds.com, and all of a sudden, this is common in our business for writers, right? It's called Control-Alt-Delete. You highlight everything, you hit one button, and you just start
Miracle in the
over.
Meadowlands, too. I was working for Fox Sports. I wrote that game story after the third quarter. This is a blowout. The Eagles are getting smoked. I jinxed it, and I said, no, can't be overtime. Please no, please no, please no. Overtime, I had to completely change the story. Rewrite it.
Isn't it fair to say against this defense that's struggling of Dallas that, Carson, you don't have to be heroic first, right at the start. You should play a smart game. If they're going to come at you, throw the ball away if you have the opportunity, live to see another down. If you play a smart game, you should be able to beat the Dallas Cowboys. Is that not fair?
One would think. If you can come out there and be smart, don't take stupid hits, get rid of the ball, live this fight and see another day. Yeah.
How do you think Dallas will attack him based on what you've seen Mike Nolan do? And I know he's got a lot of stuff he's got to figure out on his own, but he's also got a game plan against this Eagle offense.
I think there'll be selective pressure. They've had success at times, obviously not with Nolan, but over the last couple of years, they've had success at times with pressure, and I think you'll see selective pressure depending on down and distance, field location, without question. Because don't forget, now you've got Malott on the right side. You still have you'll want to create some one-on-ones. I assume Nate Herbig will still be the starter.
Yes.
He really, Trey could speak to this. I thought he really struggled last week in pass protection. It's funny how big guys like that can just get driven back.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated. I understand it, but it's fascinating to me watching it.
Oh, I know Trey's got some thoughts on that.
But I think that's what I would do. I mean, obviously they're not a heavy blitz team. They're not just going to come after him on every play, nor should any team do that. But I think you'll selectively see pressure.
How has Aldon Smith played so far?
I think he's had moments, but I think he's been very up and down.
Okay, because right now everybody's like, wow, he leads the Dallas Cowboys in sacks.
Yeah,
it's a great
3 of them in
comeback
one
story.
game.
Right, 3 in one game, and he has 4 total, I believe.
Yeah.
Right, do they do a lot of, so the Cowboys that we've come to see over the past few years with
well, now they got rid of Everson Griffin, too, because what they were doing was playing those 3 at times in their sub-nickel front, which, theoretically can cause problems because at their best, all 3 are pretty good players, Smith, Lawrence, and Everson Griffin. Now they don't have Everson Griffin.
Right. Under Rob Marinelli, they used to do a lot of twists and stunts,
Yes.
and I know that gave the Eagles a lot of problems.
Not as many now.
They don't do it as much now.
I would this week.
I would.
I would definitely run. I would if I was with Dallas. I would run a lot of games, especially to the right side. See where Jordan is. We're seeing how he handles any inside moves. I would tell my defensive ends, I want you to jet up field and then give him a spin move every now and then. Let's see if he drops his inside foot, if he's going to create that lane to the quarterback. I would definitely attack even Nate Herbig again too, because going from left to right. And now you're going to put him back over the left side. Oh, man, I would go after him a lot because now you got JP. He's working with JP. They haven't been around each other that much, so I would run a lot of games this week.
The other thing I would do a lot of, again, now you're getting to situational football. They're not going to do this on 1st and 10. But when they're in their sub-nickel, I would line up in what they call a diamond front, which is 5 across, which sets up one-on-one pass protection. Even if, let's say, they put Jalen Smith head up on the center, which they do a lot of, even if he drops out, protection rules don't change in the middle of a play. You'll still have one-on-one pass protection.
Right.
So I would do those kinds of things.
All right, I can't wait to get into trench talk because we are definitely going to do that in this show. A reminder, we're about halfway through, so please do us a good. Share this on whatever platform you're watching, whether it's a retweet, whether it's Facebook or what's the other? Facebook, Twitter,
YouTube?
Or YouTube, of course. Yeah, just hit the share button and help make us the most watched Eagles pregame show in the Delaware Valley if we aren't already. Also, if you enjoy what you're seeing today, the graphics, the bright lights, the background here, the quality sound, it's all thanks to our team, Rebel Hill Productions. Reach out to Zach and Jim at Rebel Hill today for a free consultation to discuss your digital strategy and content needs. You can email them at info@rebelhillconsulting.com or call 215-668-8498. That is Zach and Jim, Rebel Hill Productions, info@rebelhillconsulting.com, 215-668-8498. 888-848-8498. All right, it's our favorite segment here, time. It's Manscaped Man of the Game time. These are enjoyable. I like them not only for Trey's read, but of course, we kind of focus on some individuals who may get lost in the sauce as we break down the game a little bit. So I'm going to start with Adam. I don't think I started with you, Adam.
I'm going to do something different. I usually pick an offensive player, every once in a while a defensive player, but I'm going to take a guy who's playing fantastic football. He doesn't get enough credit around the country. That's BG. Brandon Graham is so good. And to me, this is the game where you got to eat. This is an advantage that you have. I say he shows up like he always shows up, but I think he has the game of the season here. The matchups really say it does, and unless they move Zach Martin to tackle, he's winning.
Well, he historically plays well against the Cowboys, so even if they do play Zach Martin at tackle, I still think that's an advantage for Brandon Graham.
Either or, he's going to win tonight. He is so good. He will be an Eagles Hall of Famer number 55.
Greg Cosell, who is your Manscaped Man of the Game?
You know, I'm going to go with Carson Wentz tonight. With the weapons back, I'm just feeling that maybe the corner is going to be turned tonight with a complete game against a secondary that's really struggled and that has some clear weaknesses too, just in terms of personnel. So I'm going to go with Carson Wentz.
Do you think Jalen Hurts can get worked into this game? Do you expect to see it, or do you think they're just going to let Carson kind of
I have very mixed feelings about all that, so I'm going to
join the club. Join the club, my friend. Join the club.
I think you know what I mean.
I got to tell you,
we do.
You're not. When it comes to this panel, you're not on an island.
No.
Trey Thomas, we'll get to you in a second. Of course, I am in agreement with Greg. My Manscaped Man of the Game is going to be Carson Wentz. What you saw in the fourth quarter against the Giants, his stat line wound up being pretty good by the end of the game. I'm looking for a 0 interception game from Carson Wentz tonight against Dallas. He's got a lot of weapons, no excuses. I know the line's going to be spotty, but he's dealt with it all year long. To me, this is about Carson Wentz versus Dallas at home, a chance to get, as Greg said, that corner turned. Deliver your finest performance of the season tonight. Carry over from what you did in the fourth quarter against the Giants. All right, last but not least, Trey Thomas. Do you have somebody new for Manscaped Man of the Week, or same thing?
No, I'm going offensive line.
There you go.
What are you talking about? We all act as one for all for one.
That's
come
right.
on. It has to be the offensive line for me.
8 straight weeks.
Yes. Well, no,
I know you did
I
one.
someone else before.
Yeah,
but I think it has to be the offensive line for me. When you're having so many moving pieces, again, you're switching the guys up, you're switching guards again, you're bringing Mailata over, put him over at right tackle. Just all the moving around is a challenge in itself. So hopefully these guys can go out there and get the job done, man.
Hopefully. And I know you're about to get the job done right now with a bang-up Manscaped promo.
Yeah, so all right. So autumn is in the air, and Manscaped is here to ensure you don't carve your pumpkins while grooming. By pumpkins, we actually mean your boys downstairs. In fact, Manscaped is on the mission to change the way you approach caring for your balls. And great news, they just released their products in the UK and Canada and Australia. You can't forget about the best trimmer for your butt, balls, and body. The Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer offers a replaceable ceramic blade and advanced skin-safe technology, which helps reduce grooming accidents. Their new Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer uses the same skin-safe technology when you're trimming those delicate nose hairs of yours. The Crop Care Kit includes the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant. Everyone knows pumpkin spiced lattes and ball deodorant go hand in hand. The Crop Care Kit also includes the Crop Cleanser Body Wash, a full body wash that you can also use on your hair. Crop Mop Ball Wipes. You never know when an opportunity strikes, so you should always be prepared. Plus, you don't want to stink while you're sitting around that Thanksgiving dinner. If you suffer from stank foot or stand on your feet all day, then I have a new product for you, the Foot Duster Foot Deodorant that's made with cooling tea tree oil that offers a pleasant experience for the stankiest feet and allows you to take your shoes off with confidence. The Manscaped's refined cologne is also a cost-effective way to smell clean and fresh for your date. The Crop Cleanser Kit and body wash is also designed with aloe vera and sea salt to leave your skin clean, fresh, moisturized, and rejuvenated. These formulations are all vegan, cruelty-free, dye-free, sulfate-free, and paraben-free. I had to look up what paraben was. I'm not familiar with that.
And what
But
is
all right.
No chemicals, man.
Yeah, no chemicals.
Bad chemicals.
Yeah. All right, so paraben free.
It's vegan. It's good stuff.
So you know your manhood is in good hands. Get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com when you use promo code TRADE, T-R-A. Again, you get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use promo code TRADE. Make your balls a priority this fall. They will, thank you.
So you guys have heard of the 3 S's, right? We all do the 3 S's when we get home? Shower, shave, and... Yeah, because Trey just introduced in Manscaped the 3 B's.
3B.
The butt, balls, and the body.
Yes.
There you go.
You got the 3 S's and the 3
And
B's.
now available in the UK.
When you
And
put,
now available in the UK.
Yeah.
when you put together the 3 S's and the 3 B's, you get a lot of BS. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
With that, we move on to Trench Talk. I know
Right.
Trey Thomas very excited about some Trench Talk. We're also going to have the inactives coming out sometime in the
about-
next 20 or so minutes.
About a half an hour.
Half hour. All right, so we'll make sure we get those to you. Man, you know, when you look at the Eagles' offensive line, Jason Kelsey, you ever see that meme on the internet of John Travolta walking into a room and just kind of like, you know, like, who's around me? That's what it feels with the Eagles' offensive line. We talked
Literally.
about it in a little beginning. I guess the big thing I wonder is this today. Let's talk about Jason Peters moving back to left tackle. To me, whether we agree or disagree with what they're doing, this is the spot that I think Jason is best at because that's the spot he played. I don't know that putting him at right guard when he hadn't practiced there since training camp would have been best for the team.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
No, I wouldn't put him at right guard. You know, you want to keep him on the left side just because that's something that's familiar with him, especially with him coming back off of whatever injury it was with his toe. So I definitely would have kept him on the left side. Just for me, since you've had so many changing in and outs, I would have kept Jordan at left tackle and put JP in at left guard.
Left guard.
You know, and then all right, now you got probably the biggest left side in football right now,
God, yeah.
with JP and Jordan Mailata in there at the same time. And then I would have gone ahead and did whatever we needed to do on the right side. If it's going to be Big Nate Herbig staying over on the right side and Matt Pryor, or if it was going to be Matt Pryor and Lane Johnson. But you know, I would have kept JP and Jordan just because of how much Jordan has been progressing over the first couple of weeks. You know, if he's going to be the tackle of the future, why not allow him to continue to progress?
Right.
I know JP is coming back. You know, he's the money man. You've already put all this investment into him, so you're not going to spend all this money and allow JP just to sit on the sideline.
Do you think in the back of their minds they knew that there was a pretty good chance Lane was not going to make it to the game, and therefore they needed to have JP at left tackle so they could play Jordan Mailata at right tackle?
But I wouldn't make that switch. I wouldn't put Jordan Mailata over on the right side just because he's been in a left-handed stance for, 4 or 5 weeks now? I mean, muscle memory is a bitch sometimes. I mean, I'm sorry for that. But muscle memory.
Just did a Manscaped read.
Muscle memory can be difficult. You know, like, you know, so once you start feeling a certain comfortable, I mean, look at Nate. You look at Nate Herbig, okay? So now he started at right guard.
Right.
Then you put him over to left guard, and you saw how comfortable he got in left guard for a couple weeks. Now you switch him back over to right. What happens? He starts dropping his inside foot, which puts him in a left-handed stance. And the reason you never drop your inside foot is because where's the quarterback? He's on your inside. You know what I'm saying? So you have to make sure that you don't make these switches like this, and everybody think, well, hey, he practiced there for a week. That doesn't mean anything if you spent several weeks on one side. Muscle memory kicks in and you get used to comfortable being a certain way, and then now you switch them over and this makes them uncomfortable. To me, I just wouldn't make this switch. I would have had Jordan at left tackle, put JP in at left guard, then now whatever you need to do over on the right side, if it's Matt Pryor or Herbie, you keep everybody on the side that they're used to playing on. Because, I mean, you know, when you start making all these switches, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, you did a great job, and everybody should check it out. It's In the Trenches with Trey Thomas on YouTube, describing and showcasing for people to see some of these linemen, specifically the guards who are moving left to right. And to what you're saying is it seems like they don't not that they don't remember, but they're using the wrong foot, right? The post foot, because they're thinking they're on one side, but then they're back on the other side.
Yes.
And when that happens, I thought you did a good job of showing that it just takes a slight second of not getting your feet right for those guys to be up on Carson Wentz now.
And it's a problem. And, you know, and Nate Herbig, he has a problem with dropping his outside foot a little too much anyway. So just like we were talking earlier, he got a lot of push in the game. Well, man, it's double-edged sword. So you can never drop your inside foot. So if you're in a right-handed stance, even if you're working back inside, you want to keep your post foot up. So it should always be here. You work back out, you work back in. You always keep your post foot up, because if it drops, then now they can take you inside. But there are times where Nate, he takes a set, and then that outside foot really turns a lot, and he turns really sideways, and then now that makes any wide three technique, it gives him even more of a lane to get pushed and put you in the quarterback's lap. So that's why you started seeing a lot of push from him at the guard position.
What do you think? What are you expecting from Jason Peters himself tonight? It's going to be a while since he's played. He tends to come out of games. I mean, he's been going back and forth on the offensive line.
Yeah.
What do you expect, and what have you been told about his staying power at left tackle?
I'll tell you what. Look, they made a decision. This was Jeff Stallings' decision. I mean, he let, as was explained to me this weekend, he let the front office know what he was doing. They didn't overrule him. Stallings thinks that Jordan Mailata needs more work with his hand usage. Trey's been telling us all season about the technique that Jeff Stoutland teaches. And it was really good a couple games, not so good last week. So they want to go back to the old standby, which is Jason Peters. But I just think, this is me speaking only, no one else told me this. It's come to the point if Peters leaves and once Lane Johnson gets back at right tackle, I think that's it.
When you say Peters leaves, you mean if he comes out with another injury?
Right. Now, I'm saying in the future. I think
okay.
it's just an opinion that I have. Mm-hmm. It's to the point where you can win by keeping younger players on the field. Like, this is something they have to turn the page at some point.
Right.
Remember, they've got Dillard coming back next year. They now have an opportunity here to develop this player. Trey, here's a question for you. Mm-hmm. How hard is it to develop a player in practice and not play in games?
If you're going to develop in practice, you need guys that's going to give you full tempo. And that's the problem with it being this time of the season. You don't have guys that you're not practicing like that, so you're not going to have guys that's going to challenge you in practice enough to get you where you need to be.
Would it be better in training camp to do that?
Yeah, that's the time to do it.
Okay.
Or if one of the things that Juan would do is that he would keep us out on Fridays. Like guys that were young that needed the development, he would tell them, okay, look, I need you to bring your pads with you on Fridays, bring your pads out, because once practice was over with, we're going to get some extra work. And he would work them after everybody's off the field, but you can't do that nowadays with all the rules and everything.
So that
I
would
bet
be
you were
full
super
speed.
excited.
You would get some of the young D linemen.
That would be full
Hey,
speed.
the guys that aren't playing,
Right.
Hey, look, I need everybody bring your shoulder pads, because we're going to get after it for a little bit. But there's only one way to get better in this game.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to take your
He's
lumps.
gotta play.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's got to play. Like, at what point is it acceptable for these guys to keep leaving games and keep giving their job back? Now,
Right.
Lane is the guy at right tackle. We know he's much younger. He's 8 years younger. But Mailata has shown enough, particularly the Pittsburgh and Baltimore games, you would think he would have no chance to play well. He was so far in advance of where they thought he would be. Jeff, they need to turn the page. I get it that it'll be Stoutland's call, but to me, it's got to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, going back to what you said, I mean, you are getting Jordan Mailata in a game, but now you're getting him in at a position that he hasn't been practicing, and it always goes back to this. I think all four of us have probably been told at some point that the job of a coach is to put the player in the best position to succeed. Sometimes that's not always easy. They have so many injuries, they literally have to find, and again, that's why I think they reconciled putting Jason Peters back at left tackle, but to his favor is to another person's detriment. And it's just like a navigation that they have to go through week after week after week.
Dillard from last year. You go out there and the man never been in the right-handed stance,
When he played right
and
tackle.
you put him over at right tackle and he got destroyed.
Yeah.
You don't know what that does to a player's confidence. Cause that could crush a guy, and you put him out in a bad situation and he's trusting you as a coach to like, all right, man, put me in a position to be able to go and win. Put him over on the right side to me is just, I think it's a mistake. I would much rather see him stay at the left side. He is your left tackle at the future. He has to take his lumps. So.
Greg, you see this a lot. In fact, Jordan Mailata came out this week and he was asked to rank his best games. And he said his best game was San Francisco, and he went second best, I think he said Pittsburgh, then Baltimore, then New York, which is the exact sequence that he was playing.
Yeah,
those games.
I thought the game that he just had against the Giants was not his best game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I thought he struggled a bit.
But isn't that that's again what you reconcile is that we're happy when a young player goes in and plays well, and this is at every position, right?
Right.
The more that the tape develops on you, the more the opponent game plans for you. And if they can see your strengths, they can also see your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Right, but as Trey says, and this is true of any sport, particularly at the highest level, is you have to be able to play through your weaknesses. You know, as Trey has always said, you have to get your butt kicked, because then you learn from that. Ideally, you learn why did I get my butt kicked? Okay, how can then I improve on that?
Right.
So if you keep juggling positions, and I know the Eagles are in a tough spot, you know, so I'm not, this is not a knock on any coach.
Right.
But the point is, if you want to develop a young player, I think it's really tough to keep moving him around, particularly on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Sure, real quick before we move off of Mailata, he's such a big guy. In what you've seen, he was a great athlete for his size and then playing rugby and moving north-south. But how is he with the lateral movement and the ability to take the strength and then parlay that into your technique? Not just with the double, not in just pass protection. I just mean overall.
Yeah, well, I think he's good. He's a sponge right now. So he's taking everything that a coach gives him, and he's trying to work the technique. You can see, because because he's learning this position, everything that he's doing has been taught to him over these past 3 years now, playing football. But if he's just right now, he's at a point where now, okay, you got by on having size and having guys just run into you, but now you're going to get a little bit more defensive ends that are going to be a lot more craftier. Some of the speed guys, some guys that's going to give you that butt and go. You saw against New York where the defensive end just came in and gave him that quick shot and then transitioned into something else. You need somebody to teach you how to handle that, and if you don't, it's going to get you beat, you know, and that's what happened in this game against New York. You never, when he had to go out there and try to jump set the DN, you saw him go out there and jump set the guy flat, and you tried to set him on the line of scrimmage. That's coaching there. That's not somebody where he just said, all right, I'm going to go out there and jump. That's coaching. So when you get beat like that, where's the correction? Why aren't you correcting that? Because, yeah, you might get a win early, but then once they catch on to it, when they go on the sideline, they say, hey, man, we see how he's jumping. I want you to get a little wider. Just go ahead and take his outside shoulder. Then now you're in a problem now. So there are things that I say that he is extremely talented, but he needs somebody to really fine-tune him and show him the way of the tackle, because if not, then some of these other problems are going to continue to show themselves.
What can Doug do tonight to make it a little bit easier on him from a block? I mean, is it tougher to run outside zones when you've just flipped him? Is it better to run inside just to kind of keep it simple for him?
I'm not worried about the run game. The run game is, I mean, you just go out there, you make sure you can get a tight end over there with him and make sure that you guys go up to the right person. It's all about making the right call.
Right.
You say, all right, if Kelsey makes the right call, hey, Mike here, then now all your rules break down from there. My problem is when it becomes 3rd and 10. And when you start seeing guys moving around, because Dallas last year ate them up on a simple blitz where they had 3 linebackers and only 2 defensive linemen, and everybody was just like, I don't know what to do. And then now they brought a corner coming off the right side.
The Jordan Lewis side.
Yeah. So then, you know, and it was simple, you know, coming from the passing strength, you know, but you know, this is all stuff that just going to have to get ready for. There's no, at 3rd and 10, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's big that the Eagles stay ahead of the sticks tonight.
Yes.
But they will be 3rd and long.
Yeah, I know.
It does happen in a game.
You can't get away from 3rd and long.
Third and long
every game.
It's going to happen.
Breaking news, it's going to happen.
Internal clock for Carson Wentz got to be sped up a little bit in those situations. Let's flip it and talk about the trenches still, but the Eagles' defensive line, which is a lot healthier and rounding into form. Obviously, they'll have their 3 big guns at defensive tackle with Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, and Malik Jackson. And at the end, with Vinny Curry back and Derek Barnett playing well. But I want to get into what Adam was saying. Brandon Graham is really, every year I think people wonder when he's going to get old and when he's not going to match the contract. But you look at the numbers. They've been fantastic this year. I think he has 6 sacks, which is the most he's had at this point in a season, I think tied for that in his career. So he's clearly not slowing down any. What are you guys seeing on tape from Brandon right now?
Man, BG has always been a workhorse. He's been banging. I mean, you know, he comes out there and he balls. He's going to give you 110%. He gives you a lot of that flash and go bull rush type stuff. So a lot of that butt and go, like I was talking about earlier, that beat Jordan Mailata, BG masters that, where it just a flash of hands and then he transitions really well. And he's a shorter defensive end, which makes it hard for offensive tackles to try to get down to his level to try to run him by.
Right. Are you surprised? I mean, I know everybody waits for him to kind of get old, and he hasn't shown it.
No, I mean, it began, what, about 4 or 5 years ago when all of a sudden he transitioned into being a really, really good player?
Yeah.
He's a fun guy to watch because the other thing, too, besides the technique, he just plays with a relentless effort.
Yeah.
And I always think that matters for a pass rusher.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You're not going to win all the time with tech. You don't win. You probably win 10% of the time if you really talk about winning. You know. So
Right.
the question is do you keep working?
Right.
And sometimes sacks come, you know, we talk about second reaction with quarterbacks. There's second reaction sacks too.
Right.
And he's a worker. He's a grinder. And he's a fun guy to watch.
He's a big pressure guy.
Yeah.
Ton of pressures per game.
Yeah.
Brandon has talked a lot about looking back on earlier in his career and, you know, blocking people on Twitter for the negativity, and then growing up a little bit, getting married, becoming a father.
It started
having a
the day of
really
the
big impact.
draft because he was the pick before Earl Thomas.
Yes, he was.
So everybody decided that the Eagles made a horrible pick.
JPP
then.
draft
And then
too.
JPP had a very
Yep.
good rookie
Yep.
first
Yeah,
2
yeah,
years.
yeah.
I would argue that I would argue that BG is a better football player
Yeah.
than
Jason
JPP,
Pierre-Paul?
but- Yeah. But look, his first 2 years were rough. He had the ACL injury. I remember doing some reporting on him that he needed to mature a little bit, to say the least. Something you talked about it. I think, meaning his fiance, then his wife, his life changed. And talking to the Eagles about him, not only is he the most high character guy they have, he's a great mentor of younger players. He brings so much energy and passion and happiness to their building. He's going to be on their Hall of Fame. But it didn't. It's amazing though. You were just talking about it as you set it up. It didn't look like that in the start. I wasn't even sure how long he was going to make it.
What's his contract situation, Adam?
He's got another year left.
Yeah.
After this year?
Yes.
Okay.
It's funny that you said he was going to be, what was the phrasing you used? He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, the Eagles Hall of Fame?
Oh yeah, 55.
I think in his Zoom press conference this week, he talked about how he walks down that hallway and he sees, if people who don't know, in the NovaCare complex, every Eagle who has made a Pro Bowl has a little poster of them in their main hallway. And Brandon has been a very good player for them, but he's never made a Pro Bowl
Which is
yet.
hard to believe.
And
but-
he's
Yeah.
never made a Pro Bowl.
That's right, because that defense, his numbers have never
Well,
been.
you know, it's all about sacks, and
Yeah,
he's
it's
always
all
like
about sacks,
nine
yeah.
and a half.
Yeah.
But he continues to be among the leaders in tackles for a loss, in quarterback pressures.
Yeah, that must-
but he
that
talked
doesn't
about wanting to be on that Pro Bowl, and maybe this is the year. Trey, I mean, you've spoke
Exactly.
about your own experience about being a first and second year player in the league and having to grow up a little bit, and Andy Reid had to get on you before that happened. So you can probably relate to what Brandon went through.
Absolutely, there is a lot of maturity that has to happen, especially as you get older in the game. You become more technical. You become more savvy when it comes to the game. You know, and I think that BG getting married and having kids and everything, it kind of calms you down. You know, and you get a little bit more focused on the task at hand, and you know, and now you put more into it because you know at times as an athlete, I think you kind of take what you do for granted and just feel like, oh, you know what, I'll always be able to do this. And I think as once you start getting a family and you start seeing the importance of what you're doing and how much it takes care of other things that you like to do with your family, then you start becoming a little bit more focused on it and really putting more effort into it.
Well, just to let everybody know that we're not the only, 4 people in the Brandon Graham fan club. In fact, his new defensive line coach, Matt Burke, spoke about Brandon Graham earlier this week in a Zoom press conference. He was asked about how he thought Brandon was performing, and he had some really interesting words to say. So let's listen now to what Matt Burke had to say about Brandon Graham.
I've only been, was only here last year to see it firsthand. So I can't really necessarily compare it to the rest of his seasons. But I think he's playing at an elite level. I mean, I really do. I think sometimes Brandon gets overlooked a little bit, just kind of a steady guy, and everyone's like kind of just expects him to be there and do what he does and stuff. But I think he's playing at a high level. I mean, at this point in the season, I'd put him up against any other guy in the league. I mean, from production numbers, rush numbers, sacks, TFLs, hits. I mean, he's just been very productive. And obviously, you guys know BG. I mean, he's never lost his, energy and affection. I mean, that's the coolest thing. I mean, I think he's had as much of an impact for us, with no fans and then limited fans and just sort of, having to generate energy and be that guy for the group. I mean, he's awesome. He's just an amazing person to be around. And then so obviously for him to have the success, I mean, he's competing at a high level. I mean, I think again, league wide right now, I would put him up there with the top guys. So again, it's all about consistency in this league and being able to continue to do it for, a whole season, not a half season. And
I have confidence the way BG prepares himself and practices and gets himself ready to play every week and whatnot, that I hope the success continues for him, because he's again, obviously the sacks numbers are good. I know he's sort of in the top of the league in terms of sacks. But it's everything. I mean, he is a force in the run game. He's setting edges for us. Like I said, he's got a bunch of TFLs. He's hitting and pressuring the quarterback, even when those sack numbers aren't necessarily, always showing up. So, BG deserves a lot of love, man. He's having a great year.
All right, that was Eagles defensive line coach Matt Burke talking about Brandon Graham. Now, a lot of times when we talk about Brandon Graham, we use the words consistently good or very good. He used the word elite, putting him in that category. And the numbers right now speak to it. Brandon's having probably the best year of his career. He does tend to be streaky, though, so you wonder if he can kind of keep this up. I think he has to for this Eagles defense to be what it wants to be. If Jim's going to be a front four rush guy most of the time, Brandon's really got to be their best pass rusher.
The wide nine does that. It puts such pressure on your front four, because Schwartz, as he was taught by Jim Washburn, we don't want you blitzing a lot, so he doesn't. But the pressures, this is what, when you talk to D-line coaches, it's all about pressures.
Right.
And it's a stat that the fans can't see because they see sacks and, okay, you didn't have 12 sacks this year, you shouldn't be a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the fans shouldn't even be voting for the Pro Bowl. It should be coaches. Or if you're going to give it to the players, let the players vote if you've played against them. If you've never seen the player, why should you vote for him?
Yeah, I know.
Or against it,
The problem with coaches, though, Adam, is as you know, is they're pretty focused on their opponent and,
No, but if they've seen him, if they've gone up against him, they should have a vote.
Right, correct.
Not bad.
But I agree with the whole sacks thing. To me, the whole point, and coaches will talk about this, is you're trying to speed up the quarterback. I remember I interviewed years ago, with NFL Films. I used to do a ton of interviews. I interviewed O.C. Umenyiora, and he had come off. He had a game in his career where he had 3 sacks against Walter Jones, who's a Hall of Fame left tackle.
Oh wow!
And I remember interviewing him at the Giants facility, and we were just shooting the breeze, either between or before or after the interview. And I said, wow, I remember that game when you had 3 sacks, and you know what he said to me, which was really kind of impressive, because I didn't really know him. He said, there were about 68 snaps in that game. I had 3 sacks, and the other 65 snaps, he kicked my ass.
Wow. That just goes to show you, sacks are individual plays.
So we had 3 plays that turned out to be sacks,
He never beat me for 3 sacks.
Oh, look at that. Why are you doing the whole thing?
72 versus 72.
Yeah.
Walter, had a weird
Walter
number.
Jones, Walter Jones and I were roommates in college.
Get out of here.
Game time roommates, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, when we were at Thomasville.
You weren't the same year, though, were you?
No, he left the year before me.
That's
he only played 1 year at Florida State. He was a JUCO transfer.
Oh, okay.
He only played 1 year, and he was like, I'm out of here, man. Let's go.
He was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. I think he ran like a 4.8 40 or something like that. He was like, I'm out of here.
Let's talk about the interior trio, though. In particular, Javon Hargrave, who is, I think, he was obviously their surprise big-ticket free agent signing. Although, if you listen to Inside the Birds, that should not have been a surprise. But he comes over from Pittsburgh, and I can't help but think a little bit about what they said about Tim Jernigan when he came over to play in Jim Schwartz's system. They said he was coming from a 3-4 to a 4-3, from a 1-gap to a 2-gap to a 1-gap. And I remember Jim Schwartz saying that Timmy was a little slow to pick it up at first, and then he finally got going. That was 2017. Do you feel like the injury that Javon Hargrave had kind of slowed his transition?
Jeff, I asked someone that who would know. I said, hey, I haven't seen him a lot. I'm not studying him, and the stats aren't great. What do you think? He's like, it looks like a guy who'd missed some time, is just starting to understand the scheme. You see some individual plays, but you're not seeing the dominance that they're paying for at 12 or 13 million a year. But that's going to happen when you miss 6 weeks. You missed pretty much all training camp. Didn't have an offseason of technique work. Didn't have in preseason. So, yeah, I think that what they've gotten is not surprising, but I think over time he's going to be pretty good.
Have you watched Javon Hargrave's tape? I mean, what do you think? I've seen what I think is some good hand usage at times. It seems like that's his.
I would say this. First of all, in Pittsburgh, he wasn't just a 2-gapper, because Pittsburgh, there's this belief that teams that are quote-unquote 3-4 are 2-gap teams. There's very few teams that play true 2-gap. Even teams that line up in what is a 3-4 front, they play a lot of 1-gap. So he had a lot of experience playing 1-gap. Now, maybe it's taught differently here. My guess is it is. But I think he's a really good player who will only get better, because I think he's got really good traits. He was I know he went to a small school, but he was a big-time pass rusher in college.
What was it? It was a South Carolina
South Carolina
State.
State.
Yep.
Is that the same school that produced the linebacker for the Colts who's really good?
Darius Leonard.
Darius
Yes,
Leonard, right?
I think so.
That's going to be a program we got to watch going forward. Yeah.
Out of the MEAC, I think.
Is he explosive yet off the ball like you would see him in Pittsburgh?
I think he has snaps when he's like that.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't
No,
think
he's
there's any
flashing.
problem with Hargrave. I mean, he's a good player who'll
Okay.
just get better.
Exactly.
I mean, how hard, Trey, do you think for him to come to this new scheme, miss all of training camp, basically? Because he had 2 injuries. He had a hamstring and I think something else.
Was he the one that was
That was the pectoral strain
Yeah.
from the weight room. And then at the end, it also was, I thought there was a hand. Wasn't there 2 injuries? with
Might
him
have
at
been,
the end?
but as you said, he missed.
Yeah,
just
he
pretty
missed
much
all
all
of
training.
training.
Kaplan always
He had a
gets those
fast man
pec
injury?
strains.
What's that? Yeah, he
Had a
got fast man injury.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
But the
interesting.
pectoral strain, now that's a big guy.
Yeah, that's a
injury,
big
right?
guy
That's a
injury.
weight room injury.
Kaplan
talk
gets
about
those all the
hamstring.
time.
Kids'
Kaplan
health.
gets those pec strains
No, I
all
have
the
that, I have
time.
that, actually, the oversized right bicep.
Oh, you do? Yes. It's so big, isn't it? The oversized right bicep.
Hey, I'm huge.
Is the bathroom over there?
I don't know what you're talking about. It's a family show as far as you know.
But certainly Javon Hargrave, someone I think that the team is looking for to kind of pick it up here over the second half of the season as he gets healthier and more involved in
Well,
the
he'll play
defense.
more snaps because Ridgeway's out.
Yep.
He will play more snaps. Ridgeway out. We talked about Rayquan Williams up, so it'll be interesting to see the defensive tackle rotation. Inactives will be coming out in about
10 minutes. Right. And Jeff, one thing I do want to talk about, because we didn't really talk about much on the offensive line change for Dallas. You just talked about Hargrave.
Right.
Let's not forget, most people have not even realized Travis Frederick, their outstanding center, retired, okay? Joe Looney, his backup, has been out with an MCL
He's back
sprain.
tonight.
Right. Looney will be back, but he's missed some time. Both tackles are out for the season. This is what sets up for the Eagles tonight, where you've got some distinct advantages. We said last week, the D-line needs to win. They didn't win consistently. They had a good game, but they didn't have the dominant game, which I believe they could have tonight. Oh, and throw in Benvenucci.
Right.
Okay? You throw that all in there, this should be the game where they dominate from the beginning to end.
The kid they picked out of Wisconsin who does play some center.
Vidash.
Now, are they going to kind of do the whole back and forth thing, or do you think it's just Joe Looney?
I think it's Looney if his MCL
Yeah.
sprain is good.
And I will say this, I think I'm going to be very anxious to see how the Eagles choose to play coverage. Because I think what they're going to try to do, the Cowboys that is, they're going to try to get Danucci comfortable. And what you do with that is it's rhythm throws. The ball comes out. And if you're going to play off and allow the receivers to get into their routes without any disruption at all, you're setting up Danucci to be able to make rhythm throws.
Sure. Be a big mistake.
Right, so you cannot just allow him to get, even if the plays are for 7 yards, you can't let him get comfortable just dropping back on quick sets and release the ball to receivers who can make the catch.
Darius Slay has been excellent this year, but he faces Amari Cooper tonight. What do you expect? I mean, if you take him out, then does the spotlight shine on if Avante Maddox can play and make it through the game?
You know,
He's going to have to be on
I'm
Gallup.
fascinated by that for this reason. I'm not saying he won't be on Amari Cooper. You know, I know there's a sense that Cooper is their best receiver, but their most explosive receiver is Michael Gallup.
Right.
And he's their boundary X,
Right.
not Cooper. Cooper is their
That's a good
Z.
point, yeah.
Cooper is their Z, and Lamb's in the slot, okay?
So theoretically, maybe
So,
you see Slay
you know,
on
again,
him. Yeah.
I know that everybody automatically says Amari Cooper,
Yep.
but Gallup is the more explosive weapon in that offense.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. So if you're Jim Schwartz, are you trying to limit Gallup's ability to stretch the field,
I
or
don't
just
know.
the overall production that Cooper could catch 10 to 12 passes a
I
game?
can't answer that. My investment portfolio is not as big as Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, it's not your pay grade?
No, it's not my pay grade.
Trey Thomas, is that your pay grade?
I would take away the deep threat. I would definitely take
Keep it in
away
front of you.
the big play making ability, just so that you can keep everything in front of you. I mean, you know, we want to try to keep this thing close. You don't want to get, because I mean, a big play can give that team that energy that they need or what they're looking for, and you don't want this quarterback to feel comfortable or have any type of sense of, yeah, you don't want that. I want him to feel constant pressure and just like, man, no one that I'm trying to go to is open.
All right, well, we'll see what Jim Schwartz does. One guy that the Eagles used to always have to game plan against because he would kill them was Ezekiel Elliott. But clearly the Dallas Cowboy running back is not doing well this year. There was a point in which he had 5 straight games of over 100 yards, total yards, against the Eagles. But, you know, going back to last year, he did not have a good game here at the Link. And then this year, he's been putting the ball on the ground a whole lot more. In fact, you see some of his stats against the Eagles. He has 621 rushing yards against the Eagles since the start of 2016. The next best is Saquon Barkley with 389. I mean, this guy's killed the Eagles
it's a
in the
weird
past.
deal because he doesn't look the same on tape. We all assumed that when Dak got hurt, that they had a run game they could rely on. Because, to me anyway, it's complementary football. Their defense has been so poor, so what do you try to do when your defense is so poor? You try to shorten the game. And you shorten the game by running the ball because it eats clock. And we figured, hey, they'd be able to run the ball pretty effectively. They've got arguably the best back in the league, certainly over the last number of years. And it hasn't worked out that way at all. In fact, Tony Pollard's been taking snaps away from Elliott.
Right. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. He fumbled twice.
Yes.
And McCarthy sat him down.
Sat him down. That was against Arizona on Monday night.
Yeah, you said that you don't think he's playing the same way, running the same way.
I don't think he looks quite as quick, and laterally. Because he was, to me, he was never a true burner. Like, you didn't normally see him, with 60-yard touch down runs. His game was 8 yards, 7 yards, 6 yards, 12 yards. He just kept grinding and grinding and grinding.
Yeah.
But you had a nasty offensive line, too, in front of him.
That's a good point.
Made it a lot better for him.
Sure. It almost was like the Emmett Smith behind the Great Wall. Emmett wasn't a guy like Barry. He would just grind at you and grind at you and grind at you.
Yeah, so I think
Emmett was shiftier.
Yeah, but way shiftier.
Way shiftier.
That's the only person I stood up to watch.
Emmett was shiftier.
But I think that with having the offensive line that has so many injuries, that run game, the zone combinations aren't just where they need to be for him to be able to have an effective run game.
Could you tell that when an opponent's body language was bad that something was going on up here? Like, you just had it. You guys were in their heads.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can see it in their eyes real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you want to try to go at somebody within the first couple quarters, so by that fourth quarter, they don't even want to deal with you.
What's his contract situation? I mean, he signed that huge contract, I want to say, last year, correct? At the start of last year?
I think it was at 19. Yeah, 19 by training camp. It's got a structure through 21. So, but look, they're not looking to get rid of him, obviously. But Pollard, though, is explosive. It's funny. I talked to one of the coaches at Memphis, and I said, man, when we were talking about Memphis, everyone talked about Darrell Henderson. Why was Greg? No one was really
because
talking about
Pollard didn't carry the ball like that. Henderson was the main.
But
Pollard
this
was
kid's
used,
explosive, man.
Yeah, Pollard was kind of used as a receiver and a runner, almost like Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to bring him up.
He was the Antonio Gibson before Antonio Gibson.
They had a pretty good running back like that a couple of years ago. His name, Dunbar, right? Is that?
Lance Dunbar was a
change up, like a
small
running
change.
back.
The Cowboys you're talking about.
Yeah. He blew his knee out,
Right.
unfortunately. But he was really explosive.
Yeah. And I wonder if they felt like when they brought in Tony, Pollard, if that was
I'm sure
be
they did. But he's been taking meaningful snaps away from Zeke the last number of weeks.
Right. Does he look bigger at all? I mean, do you think he's just not in great shape, or?
That's hard to say. He just doesn't look the same running the ball.
I think all the pounding that he takes. I mean, running backs, man, they burn out quick now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really the case for him, but I think it's, he does take a pounding though at times.
What do they have to watch for if Tony Pollard's going to be in the game? Because you said he
more
can be
explosive.
He's more explosive.
He's more explosive.
So outside zone or just lining him up in the slot? Or?
I also think because the Cowboys are going to try to jumpstart their offense and try to create some big plays, you have to look for, I don't want to call them gimmick plays, but you definitely have to look for the jet sweeps. Pollard can do that. CD Lamb can do that. You have to look for the kinds of plays that can create explosive plays that are not what we would consider normal plays.
Sure.
And we haven't stopped the jet sweep yet.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that's the type of, you almost, I don't want to say you want Ezekiel Elliott in the game because he can still be a difficult stop, but you wonder about the element of surprise that has caught the Eagles' defense off guard several times this year. If the Cowboys are looking to do the same thing with Pollard and get him in motion.
In fact, I would get Pollard if I'm calling plays. If I'm doing that for Dallas.
Is that in your portfolio and pay grade? Because Greg's not no part of that.
I'm putting Pollard out in the slot. I'm going to throw screens to him. I'm going to get this. He is really explosive. And I'll tell you what, he is. And Zeke's still a much better football player, but you're not doing the stuff with Zeke that Pollard could do. So I could certainly see why Greg's talking about that because there's a different speed to the game when he's in the game.
Sure, and I mentioned this in the podcast, Greg. I know they're down to their second string tight end, but I kind of like Dalton Schultz's body of work. Every time I watch a game, he seems to do a good job.
He's not as explosive as Jarwin, but he certainly works the short to intermediate areas. And because you have a new quarterback whose game is that, Dalton Schultz could be a factor tonight.
All right.
And without the white snake, I mean, what are we going to do?
Well, he's not. I mean, he can't play.
I know.
He's on IR.
So, You know, tight ends, man.
Well,
The white snake
lately,
has been
in
a
the
problem.
last 2 weeks, it looks like to be serious about this, it looks like they've been using Jalen Mills
Yeah,
back
to get
at
down there and
safety
cover
to
some of
cover
this.
the tight end.
Yeah,
I feel like the Eagles are defensively now with Avante back, with Slay there. I don't want to make a joke and say with White Snake out, but with their two line, with Singleton playing well, TJ coming back, we talked about their offense kind of rounding into form. This is the defense that they expected to have with Mills not having to play the outside anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they got away with playing
Right.
Nickel Roby-Coleman on the outside a little bit against teams that didn't have explosive wideouts on the outside, but this is what they're supposed to be.
Right.
So it's time for them to get to it. Time for us to get to it.
Yes.
It's that moment. Where
Oh
we
my
do
God.
The prediction. Do we have a
Not yet.
Knacker's not out
Should
yet,
be.
all right.
Yeah, well, it's usually around like within
forgot for a night
45
game.
seconds. Yeah.
All right,
They're
well-
usually, yeah, they'll be out in about a minute.
All right, well, the line on this game, guys, I don't know if you've been paying attention to it throughout the week, but
Here they are.
It's
Here they are.
fluctuated.
None of them are surprises. Nate Sudfeld, Jeffrey, Sanders LeBlanc, James Driscoll, and Johnson. They were all injury-related other than Sudfeld.
All injury-related stuff, and we'll try to get updated.
Get
on
Dallas's in a
Dallas.
second. Yep.
Yeah, so I was saying the line on this game has been up and down all week, obviously because of Dalton and not knowing the protocol. But right now, as I look at DraftKings, the Eagles are 10-point favorites to beat the Cowboys
Boy,
tonight.
that's high.
We are literally a week and a half from when they were double-digit underdogs for 2 weeks in a row. Now they're Baltimore and Pittsburgh. They were both double-digit underdogs.
And when they were losing to the Giants by double digits with 6 minutes to go.
Right. Is this not? That's the NFL. You got that face, Trey.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, we're going to talk about it. First, though, got to pay some bills here. The season is in full swing, and the action is still unfolding. So head on over to DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app with so many storylines across both professional and college sports. This is the time to check out that DraftKings Sportsbook and all that they have to offer. If you haven't tried the app yet, head to the App Store now because you don't want to miss this. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new users the chance to receive a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. And on top of those great sign-up offers, DraftKings offers great odds boosts every Sunday to help you make it rain. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code ITB when you sign up to get their can't-miss offer. $1 to win $1,000, and that's only for a limited time at DraftKings Sportsbook. Got to use the promo code ITB. You also have to be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25 times. Playthrough restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, like I said, DraftKings has the Eagles as 10-point favorites. Low-scoring game. They assume they put the over-under at 42 points, which for an NFL game this year is pretty low.
I'll tell you what, if Dalton is behind center, that number's up. But yeah, man, but if the Eagles make Ben DiNucci a throw and he's successful, this is going to be a tight game.
I made this argument in an interview with 97.3 in South Jersey this week. I feel like I know the Eagles are going through it too and have some issues up front, but when you take everything into account for Dallas, their defensive issues, their offensive line issues, and they're on a third-string quarterback who's not from a power conference, right? He's a rookie, 7th-round pick. I feel like if the Eagles lose this game, it's an embarrassment for them. I hate to. I don't always put that label on games. I know there's any given Sunday, but you kind of can't lose this game at home. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but that would be a very,
It's
very
set up.
bad
Listen,
loss.
they, as you said a couple minutes ago, and it's really true. They came this close to losing to a team that's not very good. In fact, doesn't have the talent that Dallas has, but they almost did it. They had to come back, a Superman comeback by Wentz. So I would agree with you. It is Dallas. It's at home in front of 6,000 people, but nevertheless, you got to win this game.
Is that fair? I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is a game that they need to go out there and dominate. This is a team that you have an offensive line that's depleted. I mean, you know, this is a game that you should go out there and just put your foot on their throat, but you can't find yourself in a scrap at the end of the game. You know, this is something that I would like to see 4 quarters of total dominance.
You're talking about that proverbial let the underdog hang around type game.
Yeah,
too long.
yeah.
Let the rookie get too comfortable and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Greg?
You know, I struggle to say that the way that the Eagles have played for the most part, that they've showed us that they're ready to dominate anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, but I would say the spread notwithstanding, I just think if you win by 1, at least you won. Like
Right.
You can't lose this game.
Right.
Well, that I agree with.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can't
no,
lose.
no, I agree with that.
Can't lose.
I'm just, is there anything in their first, what are they, 2-4-1?
2-4-1.
So is there anything in their first 7 games that leads you to believe that they're going to go out and dominate any team?
No.
No. You got to be from Missouri. You got right. The Show Me State. You got to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, are they capable? If everything were to go right, are they capable? Yes. But I don't think they've shown that in the only place that it counts, on the field.
Okay. I chuckle a little bit because I'm going to now ask you for your score that you
And
predicted.
I can't even remember what score I gave you.
Well, if I read it to you, we
was-
might get a good laugh
it was-
because you picked the Eagles to win 27-13. So
There
that's
you
a
go.
pretty convincing win. That
Actually,
we just said we
actually-
couldn't give them.
Yeah.
It's a pretty fair score.
All right, so Greg Cosell, you're on the record. Eagles
I am
win.
on the record.
You want to amend it real quick? 'Cause I'll
No,
give you the,
I don't.
No, that's a
the
good one.
internet.
I
We
think
can
it's
do
really
that.
good.
Solid.
This is a
Cover the
live
spread.
show.
I don't want to amend it.
Okay, just making sure. All right, Trey, what do you say?
I don't know.
He says that every week.
We're not giving you
I
another
hope they
time.
win. Yeah, I hope they win. What score would I go? I kind of like that 27-13.
There you go.
Yeah,
See, I'm a
I like the
trendsetter.
27.
I was going to go with the crawl before we walk approach and just have you say who you thought was going to
Yeah,
win.
I think the Eagles can win. I think they can win this game. I hope they win this game. But I like the 27-13 where they cover the spread.
Okay. I think it's funny that's 2 14-point wins, but yet at the same time you're like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Let's go with the 14-point win.
Do you trust them?
I'm being optimistic.
No, I
you know?
don't.
See, I know him.
I'm an optimistic guy.
All right, Adam, what do you got for this game?
I'm going to adjust it a little bit. Now, the only concern here is the wind. It's going to be somewhere between 17 and 18 miles an hour throughout the game. But Wentz, it's not like Wentz hasn't played in windy conditions before. But with the speed back, with Rager back, with Goddard back, which is going to help the run and pass game, they're going to win 30-13.
Wow.
30 to 30.
And by the way, I don't think that kind of wind is that extreme.
Yeah, I mean, it's a.
Like, I don't think that will impact the pass game
I hope not.
significantly.
I hope not.
By any means.
But I still think they're going to be able to score. This Dallas' defense is so bad.
Well, I'm with you, fellas. I don't trust the Eagles at all, and yet when I look at what I predicted, it's a fairly commanding victory. I have the Eagles winning 27-16 in this game. So all 4 of us both admit that you cannot trust the Eagles, and yet all 4 of us pick double-digit wins.
But
which
I
is
trust
basically the
Dallas
NFL.
less.
You trust Dallas.
We
even
trust
less.
that Dallas sucks.
Trey, in your
The star.
I don't think anybody's gonna have an argument with you trusting that. But in your experience as a player, can a game like this for the Eagles, as you start to get healthy, if you can really, beat the Cowboys double digits, do you see this as a launching pad type of game for the Eagles?
Absolutely. It can definitely be a big confidence booster moving forward. The only problem is you have a bye week coming up. It would be awesome if you could have this type of game and going into the bye week without no bye week.
If you're playing well, would you rather keep playing, though it's been a long
Yeah.
season? Oh, you still
I would
keep
much
playing?
rather keep going because it keeps the rhythm of going.
Normal
now-
week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
normal
normal
week.
week.
But now you have a week off. Everybody should be around anyway. Because how are teams handling bye weeks with it being in the middle of a pandemic?
Well, that was a good point. I remember specifically the Steelers were very annoyed when their game got postponed a couple of weeks ago.
Right. Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger
Tomlin
said they got the
thought
short end of
yeah,
the stick
yeah.
because they wanted to keep playing. To your point, they were undefeated, but guess what? Aren't they still undefeated?
They are
undefeated,
yeah.
They're still pretty good, right?
They beat the Ravens today, yep.
All right. At the flip side of this, and we'll close out on this, a win could be a launching pad type of a game for them. A loss, as we just talked about,
Going into the bye.
going into
Brutal.
the bye,
Yeah,
Trey.
brutal. Yeah, that could be
Well,
brutal.
especially to Dallas.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
a division game.
It just added all in. You're losing to Dallas. You're losing to a bad Dallas team.
Yeah.
You're bad in general. A loss. Now nobody wants to be around.
Right, but what keeps every team in this division in it is it's terrible. It's
Right.
the worst division we've ever. This is the worst we've ever seen in the NFC East. Awful. And no matter what happens tonight, these 2 teams will be in it. Dallas has sort of bailed on the season, cutting 3 players. But the bottom line is the Eagles have a wonderful chance to win tonight.
Yes, and obviously the trade deadline coming up
Yeah.
pretty quickly after, so maybe this game's outcome will factor into some decision making. We're all off next week because the Eagles are off next week. So you get a 1 week, well, I guess 2 week break from us. We'll be
On
back
team-
the following
on
Sunday.
here, right? But we'll be on the pod.
You're checking out the Inside the Birds podcast on any podcast platform. Check out Inside the Birds on YouTube as well. There you'll find not just our podcast, but Trey Thomas, Jamal Jackson, and Todd Harriman's doing Tales from the Blind Side, one of the greatest shows that we have on Inside the Birds. And also Thursday, Trey Thomas back with Derek Gunn for Grilling the Birds, another great show that we've got on the Inside the Birds platform. Want to say thanks to our friends at DraftKings, Rebel Hill Productions, Sky Motor Cars, and Leverage Studios. Everybody have a great game. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you in 2 weeks, and let's see what happens. Enjoy the game, everybody. Take care.